is weighing the interaction between government and social media in a landmark free speech case. The case stems from the Biden administration's early efforts to push platforms to take down content it deemed misinformation about COVID and the 2020 election.
Justice Jackson?
So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. What would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country.
Well, first of all, that clip by Ketanji Brown Jackson, that was kind of terrifying because the entire purpose of the First Amendment is to restrain the government. It's not to restrain the public from getting in the way of government action. It's the opposite. If it restrains the government, that's a good thing. That's sort of the idea behind the statute. In this instance, the reason this suit is being filed is because the plaintiffs in this case, in particular, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and Martin Kulldorff and Dr. Aaron Hariati, they had their speech suppressed because they were contradicting a false government official opinion. And this is the entire purpose of the First Amendment, is to prevent the government from creating a hegemonic opinion that cannot be challenged. That is why we have a free press. And that was the essence of this case, and the government was allowed to argue the opposite.
Conservative Justice Samuel Alito, on the other hand, had this to say.
I cannot imagine federal officials taking that approach to the print media, our representatives over there. If you did that to them, what do you think the reaction would be? And so I thought, the only reason why this is taking place is because the federal government has got Section 230 and antitrust in its pocket.
Let's listen to what Justice Alito said, and then I'll ask you about it.
When they're unhappy, they curse them out. There are regular meetings. There is constant pestering of Facebook and some of the other platforms. So it's treating Facebook and these other platforms like they're subordinates. Would you do that to the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or the Associated Press or any other big newspaper or wire service?
As someone who's covered a White House, the answer to that, Mr. Justice, is yes. They would do that, and they would do it often.
We're back, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Of the Post-Duopoly show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick? What's up, Dude Dissidents? What's up, Harlan?
What's up? Welcome to The Rising. We're the new host of The Rising with that music coming in. The foxes are in the hen house now.
That's right. We're taking over. New management.
It's great to be back. I think we were all moved to tears by that Cenk Uygur monologue about uniting, so we had to, all unite again.
Yes. So here we are together. Thank you, Cenk. Without you and your inspirational run for president, we would not be here. Fat Tony, yes. We love you.
It's an inspiration.
let's just check
Avengers two-parter is in trouble, so we're auditioning for Phase 6.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there you go.
Let's check in with everybody just to see what's been up. Briefly, 30 seconds or so. What's been up since the last time? We did a Post-Duopoly show. We could start with Kit and then go to the Due Dissonance guys. What's for those that may not have seen you since then, since maybe they only watched the Post-Duopoly show, but just briefly, take 30 seconds, 45 seconds to let people know what's been up with you.
Well, Hard Lens Media is pushing forward. We're doing good on our TV show. We are pushing forward. And again, a huge thank you to all of our allies in independent media, RBN, Due Dissidents. So much love to all the support that we've been getting. And hey, we're just pushing forward and working on some projects. And of course, getting ready to cover the Chicago Convention in August. So there you go.
What's up, Keaton and Russell?
We've added a 4th weekly stream, so now we're on 4 days a week. We just did a show on Rumble this afternoon, so now we're on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. That 4th additional stream. So far, we've done 3 of them. We've done them all as Rumble exclusives since things come up throughout the week that we don't want to risk getting shut down by talking about here on the YouTube side. So today we had Danny Shaw on to talk about Haiti. That was a great time. And we'll be dropping like pieces of those shows on YouTube, obviously, but the streams themselves, it's really fun to do just one uncensored live stream per week. So that's what we've been up to. We added a 4th show.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
Yeah, Russell's been on a plane since we left. He's hardly been on the ground.
Yeah, I just got back to New York last week. I was gone from January 2nd until I think I came back March 11th.
The angels are on your side, Russell, man. You were on an airplane. Knowing what's going on with airplanes now, man.
Yeah, he's been...
Who had a crazier job than Russell? Who had a crazier job than him? Dude, Russell, I remember late last year, he told us you was going to co-host a Jimmy Dore show. I was like, damn, dude, that's a hard-ass gig, bro. Like, for Jimmy's audience, for like their willingness to accept even new. But with that said, you've been killing it, man. With that said, because that's a hard gig, bro. And with all that, so you had a crazy year.
You know, but I think that's hard on anybody's show, man. Like, because the audience is there for that person, right? That's their audience. So that's always going to be hard. If you came over and did our show, if we came over and did your show, if Jimmy came over and did our show, you'd have people who would complain because that audience is there for you. So, you know, you do what you can. We've done well with his audience as well as you're going to do stepping in with somebody else's audience because we have a similar sense of humor. So I think once they saw that, they were cool. And everyone on that end was so nice, man. They were so welcoming. Like, you know, a situation like that, people could definitely give you the stink eye. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Never got that vibe. Everybody was very nice.
Yeah, and people didn't know we actually met up in person. We didn't make a big deal about it.
We fucking forgot to take a picture, man. I didn't think of it until
Jimmy
you like
Dore,
ran off
to the Jimmy Dore show.
You guys living in the moment. Look at you guys living in the moment, enjoying your guys' company, not doing it just for social media. You know, I'm proud of you guys. You know what? I'm proud of
touching grass. What's wrong with you guys? Going outside?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the last. I think that's the reason why we wasn't so like, oh, let's get a picture. Like,
I'm coming out next week
soon. Yeah, we'll see each other again. So that was the vibe. But we can go to Nick. What's up with you, Nick? For those that may not have seen the Post-Duopoly show. Like, that's the only show they watch here on RBN. What's been going on with Nick and Nick at Night and what you've been doing up to?
What's popping, my friends? What's popping, my friends and my family? This is Post-Duopoly show season 2. What's popping, my friends? I had Keaton, I had Kit, Cabello. They joined me at Nick at Night. You guys definitely gonna see them again. If you guys missed it, bro, we had Q Anthony Ali. If you guys don't know Q Anthony Ali, you guys learn who that motherfucker was last night.
That was a good show. I watched most of it. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I watched most of it. It was a really good show last night. It was a long one too, right?
Yeah, this is why like I'm completely done with the professional managerial class because I realize they're really dumb. Like when the people I'm interested in talking to are people like Q Anthony Ali. You know, the people, the person who's not really accepted by the professional managerial class establishment because of his opinions, but he would destroy anyone in a debate, like any of these like mainstream PMC civility politics types. There's a reason why you guys see a lot of people avoid Q Anthony Ali because he dismantled these talking points in such a magnificent way. And so last night, Nick at Night took us to school. We talked about Haiti and why a lot of people in the global left get this issue wrong. Like to me, I don't think it's a hard issue to get right. I think there's a lot of prejudice at play and racism as well because they see revolutionary movements pop up in Haiti. They see an ineffective, illegitimate government in Haiti that's being overthrown by people, and all the Western governments had to do is call them a gang. And the West like, oh my God, look at those gang members over there. That's all they had to do. When there's a Black revolutionary movement, call them a bunch of gangs. So that's what we talked about yesterday. That was a banger. You guys you already know we got the mother of all bangers, banger after banger today. So looking forward to it. Also, and I really hope we can make this happen because we got plenty of fucking time, and we maybe talk about it a little bit later after the show. Because I talked to Keen about this. I talked to Kid about this as well. We had the DNC convention. We got what? 4 months to prepare.
Start planning.
5 months, right? It's August 19th, right?
August 19th through the 22nd, and it's going to be apparently at the United Center and the McCormick Place. Of course, I'm going to be there. It's my
I know
backyard.
you're going to be there.
It's in my backyard.
Yeah, I'm going because I think it's only like a 5 to 6 hour drive to Chicago.
So you're
not, the only reason I
coming.
won't drive because I told you guys like I'm just an ordinary working class citizen journalist, you know, the grifter with bag tags. So I might have to fly because my tags were bad, but I can go right to Chicago, not that far. So you know, and plus Kit been talking all this shit about this piece out there. I've been hearing about this piece in Chicago. I'm like, bro,
exactly the most superior.
I don't believe
the most superior food
I'm
ever.
almost definitely going. So there's going to be so there's going to be like Platoon. Me and Kit are going to be fighting over your pizza soul.
Okay,
so I'm thinking.
I call dibs on being Willem Dafoe's character, though. There you go.
So I'm thinking. So this is what I'm thinking. And once again, we got a lot of time to handle logistics and all this stuff. Post-Duopoly show DNC convention covers, fam. Think about the historical banger
on the
that
ground.
would be.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm with that. I'm with that. I'm with that.
Are you going to come?
Yeah.
No.
And as long as I'm able to raise money, I already talked to the wife. I'm able to come. You know, like me and I think Keaton, we always got to check with the wifey to make sure.
Well, he's going to have a new one, man. That's why he can't go.
And I talk.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not a new wife. No, I'm not a new wife. I will have a new. No, it has been a while, actually. But yes, my wife is expecting, so we're gonna have our third baby boy in July. So I will not be able to go to the
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Congratulations.
But
we'll
you know
get
what
somebody
I
to
could
fill
be
in.
in the
Maybe
control room
Misty.
here. So if you guys are streaming
There
from.
You go.
If you guys are streaming from the street, we could do what we did when Russell was in London. I'll turn my system on here, and we can blast it out on Twitter and YouTube and Rumble and all that shit.
Yeah, we'll have to be extremely on point because I know if I know anything from what I covered about the CPD, as they're going to be covering securing the convention, they're trying to make sure that it's like a complete radius away from like protesters that won't be near the McCormick Place or the United Center. And if they're going to be doing that, you know they're going to be trying to block signals.
How's that legal? Yeah. I'm one of the people that I don't accept anything that is just told at me at face value. How is it legal for these politicians and these public figures to tell you where you protest? Like they have a convention where they about to elect the president.
It doesn't surprise me.
Over here.
It doesn't surprise me because when Trump was president, from 2016 through 2020, when we used to cover the protests, you know, they would meet up one part in downtown Chicago, and then they'd be herded like little sheep in like a little pen that's right across the river from Trump Tower. It's absolutely embarrassing. So yeah, the CPD and the Chicago aldermen can do that if they wanted to. The mayor can do that. The Mayor Lightfoot raised the bridges at the height of the George Floyd protests.
A protest that is government approved, that doesn't make the government uncomfortable, is a glorified prep rally. So they have a convention, but they can tell you where you have to protest.
Are you applying for a press pass?
I have been. Okay, so with the DNC convention, I tried everything I could to really reach out to get a press pass. I've been trying to reapply, but what the DNC sent to me is the infamous, well, you're not qualified, even though I've been in this business since 2017.
Do you have a Chicago press pass?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
You do, and they won't.
Well, with the press pass, I mean, I could probably maybe get in the inner part, and I could I want to broadcast our plan, but you know, because we got to talk maybe in a little bit more quiet.
All right, we'll talk offline about it.
Yeah, offline but yes, I do have a Chicago press pass though.
I have a New York.
Well, yeah, let's talk. Let's
not do anything for me there.
Let's not tell
it could.
Let's discuss offline. Okay, gentlemen. So one more announcement. This one is just something that dropped on our lap right before we went live, and I just want to shout this out. I just remember we should shout this out. Our brother, RBN brother JB, is going through a housing situation again. It's been a couple of years, but the same place where he had to secure money because they upped his rent. All of a sudden, I think they sold the place and they said, "Oh, you guys have 60 days to get out of here. Just like that. They sold the place.
Oh,
Where-
the
where's
landlord
he?
sold the
Florida?
building.
He's
God
in
damn
Florida.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Capitalist
And I mean, it's
hellhole.
other issues with the place, but that's essentially, you know, hey, we're able to, this is capitalism. Hey, we're able to make money. Damn these people that's living here. This is why this is why we advocate for the abolishment of exchange value, because the person is able to sell and make money. They can just kick out a family, these families, I should say, because it's plural, families out of this place because they made money. It's crazy, but that's what's happening. If you're able to contribute on Cash App is $, James Font Leroy.
This is a good
That's
time
the
to
Cash
remind
App.
people.
Yeah.
It's a good
Go
time
ahead,
to remind
Nick.
people. It's a good time to remind people that Mao did nothing wrong. I'm
Yo,
about
you
as
guys
radical. I'm about as radical as it comes, my brother.
You guys should
But
put
now
that
I
on a
see my
t-shirt.
brother
You
get
should sell
evicted
that.
because
That would be a good. You should sell that as a t-shirt. That would be
Oh
good
yeah,
on your
for
merch
sure.
shop.
I'm out here airing up right now. I'm gonna text
That would
Aaron
be
right now.
fucking
We
great.
need that shirt immediately,
Right
especially
there.
after this situation. Mao didn't do a goddamn thing wrong because now they evicted my brother. Now I want you guys to think about it like this.
You should print
They
that on a
evicted
coffee
my
mug
brother.
too.
They evicted a member of the RBN family for profit because I think, based on the conversation I heard today, his landlord wanted to sell. He wanted to make a little more profit. You guys see why it's not a good idea to have critical infrastructure at the hand of capitalists. This is why Mao and many people was right banning landlords. Why there's not landlords in China. Seemed like a good idea.
There aren't any landlords in China.
Idea.
Well, so is there anything?
How does that work there?
What was that?
How does that work there?
The banks is seized by the government. The banks is publicly owned, and they control the prices of housing. You know, the rent control that landlords in this country claim will rob them of their freedom, the freedom to make housing unaffordable. That's why in China, housing prices are around $400 to $500 bucks a month in China, and they make around $49,000 a year in United States money. Housing is a very small amount of what China pays. Meanwhile, it's literally about a third of what Americans make in their income. Is it really free?
Hang on, but when somebody buys a house there, like that is a business where, say, you own an office building in theory, right, and rent it out to people. Like, how does that work there?
I'm not.
The government. I just know I don't know the exact mechanism, but I just know the government controls the pricing and the housing because they own the banks, because the banks usually loan out. But in China, they own the banks and they control the housing prices in each individual area. Obviously, in cities like Shanghai, the price is around $700, $800, which is nothing compared to the cities in the United States. But by having a central planning model where housing prices are actually controlled, instead of having being like anarchy where landlords, you're at the mercy of the landlords, like what happened with JB, where they can just sell and make you homeless. It's undeniable that one system where you have a central planning model based on what the government is regulating is much better than this anarchy.
Well, especially in places like New York, where 40% of the apartments are regulated and 60 aren't, because then that fucks with this with the supply numbers and makes the prices even more chaotic and even more unaffordable. I think New York. I think the average rent now is over $2,000 a month.
Oh God, yeah.
I always tell people I would not move here now. Like just walking in the door, forget about it. But I'm in the same building for 17 years, and my apartment's regulated. I'm not paying market rent. I'm paying $70 more than I was paying in 1995. That's why I'm here. If I were paying market rent, there's no fucking way. There's no way.
All right, let me get through just this announcement for JB so we can get to the first topic, which is supreme censorship under the Biden administration. But just so people know who JB is going through this while at the same time being disabled and having to regularly raise funds for that. This is his GoFundMe for that. In the middle of him finding this out, guess what he was doing? He was raising funds for unhoused people to go do something for unhoused people. And he's still doing it, regardless of this that's happening to him. This is today. He's tweeting this. So he's still doing it, even regardless of the situation he is in, where he's raising money to get toiletries and ponchos for those that are unhoused in Florida. So this is the state of a collapsing empire and what it does, how it grinds people up. But with a support system that hopefully we have, we're able to help him stay above water, because this stuff is just literally just helping to stay above water. Nobody's getting rich off of trying to get low income housing. So if you're able to contribute,
we'll plug that Cash App on the show tomorrow. We have a morning stream tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be sure to post that as well.
Yeah, this is a different one. If this is for unhoused, if you want to contribute to the Orlando RBN where he's raising money for unhoused, you see it on the screen, and then I showed you earlier the one for his housing.
Yeah, for his Cash App. I took a picture, so
yes,
we'll
absolutely.
make sure
All
we
right,
put that.
So go
on the
ahead.
show
Somebody
tomorrow.
was gonna go ahead, Nick. You were gonna chime in.
And this is the reality of what we have to deal with. This is the reality of what the workers have to deal with in this country. Because I covered maybe a year and a half ago how you have a rise of homeless, disabled people. There are disabled. There's a massive uptick in homeless, disabled people because the benefits that disabled people are receiving, especially in states like Florida and red states like in Missouri, is not only keeping up with inflation and not keeping up with how much landlords are increasing their rent. Like we've seen massive rent spikes over the last 4 years, especially landlords taking advantage of COVID, because you gotta know that what capitalists do. They take advantage of disaster and make massive profits. Right. So not only do you have massive divestment in social services, you have those social services who are not keeping up with inflation, and then you have landlords that increase rent on top of that. This has led to a drastic spike in disabled homeless people. It's one of the things where capitalists are like, well, if you don't want to be homeless, why don't you work? Well, these people are disabled. These are the people that are being abandoned by our government. Now, we helped JB raise money before, and we are in a position where we are forced to do this again. But what kind of unhinged system is this? How many disabled people are going to have a giant community known as RBN to have their back? You guys see the dysfunction in this system where housing is controlled based on the whims of someone who wants to make profit? It's absurd. So of course I'm going to be upset about that. And of course I'm going to allow this situation to further radicalize me. I think it's absurd. And I will always have this position. It's absurd to have capitalist controlled critical infrastructure unregulated. It's absurd.
Mm-hmm. Same thing's happening here in Chicago too. The New York City is an expensive place to live in. Chicago as well. And we had our primary, and there was a ballot initiative in our state called Bring Chicago Home. Sorry, excuse me. And it failed miserably. There was 20% voter turnout for our state election, or for our state primary. And the purpose of it was to tax the more affluent, rich properties in downtown Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it never, the politicians and people supporting it, their message wasn't coherent enough, and it wasn't loud enough. And number two, there's always that question and concern of, well, who's going to be running it? And unfortunately, even if it's a good thing, there's always that snake of Chicago politics intertwining and wrapping itself around it. So that's another thing. And now a lot of Chicagoans, there's a rise of tent cities and people living underneath bridges and buildings being vacant all over the south and west side neighborhoods of Chicago.
And with housing being so expensive now, they should have to give you more than 60 days notice if they're selling the building and forcing you to move.
Yeah.
Because it costs a few $1,000s to move now. Because you got to put down the security for the new place. Some places charge you first and last, plus the security. So you got to pay 3 months some places. I don't know what it's like in Orlando. In the suburbs of New York City, it's customary you put down first month, last month, and security. So you got to have 3 months. In the city, it was only security in first month when I lived there. But I don't know what it's like in Orlando.
It depends. A lot of times it is first, last, and security.
Yeah, so that's triple. So you got to come up with 3 months worth of rent. Who has 3 months worth of rent hanging around?
Sure.
Where they can come up with that in 50 days.
Well,
it's ridiculous. You should have to give at least 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hang on. So it got expensive in Chicago? Because when I was living there as a New Yorker, I was like, damn, this is dirt cheap. Price still is relative.
No. It's the prices are rising up all over the city.
What's your average rent over there now?
Depending on which day, obviously, if you're on the north side, it's going to be expensive, like $2,100, maybe $2,200. South side of Chicago, give or take, maybe $1,800, $1,500. That's low balling it. But
that's a two-bedroom.
That's a two-bedroom. I think that's a one-bedroom. That's a one-bedroom.
Yeah.
That's
I think
still cheaper
I
than
think
here.
all of these metropolitan places are pretty similar. There are some areas in New York and California definitely that's higher than even the state norm. So that
LA
is
is
absolutely
insane, man.
true.
And plus,
it's insane over here.
plus,
It's insane.
plus, as for downtown Chicago, I'm not gonna give a number, but I will say that it's probably insanely high because that's high value property, and you have to, you have to come from money or do a lot of side hustle to be earning the kind of big bucks to live in the
Oh, they're
area.
gonna force us.
Yeah, so there
they're
you
gonna
go.
force us. This is the system's way of forcing you into these jobs that you hate for decades. This is the system, how it works. But gentlemen, we do have to get back on track. Any last comments? I don't want to cut off the entire thing, but let's close it here. Any final comments on this? I think Nick was kind of chiming in or itching to say something. Nick, did you want to say something? You brought up something on the screen that you want to shout it out real quick.
No, you guys know I always show receipts. So I was showing the receipts. The headline I had on UpPad said, and I covered this a while ago: high rent outpace federal disability payments, leaving many homeless. So that's what happened to JB. Like last time we had to raise money, and that's what many Americans are facing right now.
Right. Well, in New York, we have it to such an extreme that sadly, I must say, you get desensitized to it. When I was in Europe in September, I came back and I saw how desensitized I was because I spent a month not seeing that. You just get used to not seeing that. And then as soon as you come back to New York, it's freaking homeless people, mentally ill people around you all the time. All the time. You get on the subway, at least half the time, there's someone who needs help on that car.
Yep,
and
I was the same thing.
You block it out after a while, man. But then if you get out of the pool and then you come back, you notice how dirty the water is.
Yeah, I had that revelation like when I came back before the lockdowns when I was in Japan, just how crazy Chicago's infrastructure is, but also, you know, even when you are like not using public transportation, because I went downtown like first time in a long time using the CTA, and I was surprised to see the amount of homeless people and people who clearly had mental health issues who were on the train, literally making a loud scene where like a couple of years ago, even that wouldn't have happened, but it was so prevalent. It was everywhere. And there were so many tents, like even on the streets, even in the parks. And you're wondering, how did this happen? And is this acceptable? Is this going to be our new norm? Like we're living in the skeletal remains of this dying empire. Is this what the Romans felt as before the empire completely collapsed? Because we are the better days truly behind us. And unfortunately, I have to say, yeah, it is after what I've been seeing and what you've been talking about, Russell.
Traveling around the country the last few months. I mean, that's what I've seen. I compare it to you ever see Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? Remember,
enlighten me.
In that movie, Jim Carrey, he's like in his memory, and he's going from memory to memory because all the memories are being taken away, and he's trying to go into the bubble of that memory before it disappears, and then he's got to run to another one. That's what it feels like going around the country right now. It's like, oh man, I want to see New Orleans before it's gone. Oh man, I want to experience LA before it's gone. Everything feels like it's just a bubble collapsing in on itself. And there's only a little bit of it left even now, and that's about to be gone.
Wow. Okay, I got to see that movie.
All right, gentlemen. Let's we're gonna just quickly through the censorship one. We all kind of have talked about it. I think all of us have talked about it on our platform. So we're all just kind of briefly go through this really quickly so we can catch up with the topics we need to discuss, which is a lot. We have been away for a long time, but these are some great topics. It feels like specifically for this dynamic, this panel that we have tonight. So I'm very interested in just hearing all of your views on some of this. But here's the headline we'll start with. The Supreme Court can dismantle the censorship industrial complex. This headline and this article was surprisingly good, and it came from the Hill. I was absolutely surprised, and I'm going to read a snippet from it and get everybody's to chime in, but let's watch this again for the sake of editing and putting this clip together. We're going to watch this 3-minute clip again. As we watch it, gentlemen, if we can pay close attention to what Justice Brown says about her anti-constitutional point of view, and then also at the very end, what the reporter, what the anchor says about whether or not regular press like the New York Times and Washington Post, whether our government treats them like subordinates, like the social media platforms. And he says, "You damn right." So those are the two things I want all of us to kind of zero in on, and whatever else you want to comment on. But let's watch it all the way through, 3 minutes.
The Supreme Court is weighing the interaction between government and social media in a landmark free speech case. The case stems from the Biden administration's early efforts to push platforms to take down content it deemed misinformation about COVID and the 2020 election.
Justice Jackson?
So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country.
Well, first of all, that clip by Ketanji Brown Jackson, that was kind of terrifying because the entire purpose of the First Amendment is to restrain the government. It's not to restrain the public from getting in the way of government action. It's the opposite. If it restrains the government, that's a good thing. That's sort of the idea behind the statute. In this instance, the reason this suit is being filed is because the plaintiffs in this case, in particular, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and Martin Kulldorff and Dr. Aaron Hariati, they had their speech suppressed because they were contradicting a false government official opinion. And this is the entire purpose of the First Amendment, is to prevent the government from creating a hegemonic opinion that cannot be challenged. That is why we have a free press. And that was the essence of this case. And the government was allowed to argue the opposite.
Conservative Justice Samuel Alito, on the other hand, had this to say.
I cannot imagine federal officials taking that approach to the print media, our representatives over there. If you did that to them, what do you think the reaction would be? And so I thought, the only reason why this is taking place is because the federal government has got Section 230 and antitrust in its pocket.
Let's listen to what Justice Alito said, and then I'll ask you about it.
When they're unhappy, they curse them out. There are regular meetings. There is constant pestering of Facebook and some of the other platforms. So it's treating Facebook and these other platforms like they're subordinates. Would you do that to the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or the Associated Press or any other big newspaper or wire service?
As someone who's covered a White House, the answer to that, Mr. Justice, is yes. They would do that, and they would do it often.
Wow. And the chuckle gentleman was like Nick saying "sweet summer child." That was basically his "you sweet summer child." Of course, Justice Alito. But whoever wants to go first, that was astonishing to me. That clip when he said, "Of course they treat regular press like subordinate," but it explains so much. Whoever wants to take that.
Well, let's go ahead and let's talk about how the press has been pushed around by politicians and those in power. There's the war in Iraq, where there was the narrative of, if you don't support this invasion of us removing Saddam Hussein, we are going to say that you're a traitor. How many of the anti-war critics lost their jobs, at least during that time, when there was still trust in the media, when there was some supposed or the idea of trust in the media? How many people lost their jobs? How many times have we seen, even before then, before the Telecoms Act was signed by Bill Clinton, even before then, when politicians would push everything they had to silence an article coming off in the New York Times. It has happened before over and over again. It's just I don't think people have talked about it as much as they should because all the tensions right now on social media, and we use our cell phones and our computers all the time. But the media now is intertwined with our politicians because the same people who donate to Democrats and Republicans are also on the board of directors or by proxy associated with the corporations that control MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, New York Times, Fox News. I mean, it's all connected in there. So if a story is going to come out, they're going to get a phone call. I'll never forget when Project Veritas showed that story of ABC when they could have revealed the story about first name Jeffrey, last name E, and they were so upset about it. But they got a phone call. They don't release that story. And apparently they had everything. And that lady from ABC was saying, we had interviews, we had evidence, everything. And the reason why they couldn't do it is because they wanted to speak to Will and Kate of the royal family. Last I checked, didn't we have a goddamn revolution in this country to dispose all monarchs? Like, you're supposed to tell the truth. And she was upset, like we couldn't tell the story. Well, lady, you sat on that story. So yes, politicians, those in power, have pushed their influence and whatever push and pull they have on the media before. And this isn't anything new, but I'm rather frightened about this because I said that there's going to be a moment when independent media might just be removed as a whole. Like, no matter what we say or how many times we appeal, like, we'll be gone. And this, I don't want to say this is the beginning, but it sure feels like it. And I'm having a chill on the back of my neck.
What about you guys?
Ketanji,
What do you think?
Ketanji Brown, and I'll pass it right to you, King. I know you want to chime in. Ketanji Brown Jackson is a Supreme Court justice, but she's a fucking child. The thing, remember this, guys, because I'm going through my villain arc where I'm really looking at every single person and they're like with titles, credentials, the esteemed establishment, and I'm realizing like all these people are morons. So she's
They're
like,
not serious people. They're not serious people at all. None of them.
Some people will say they are deeply unserious, in fact. So she says, don't the government, shouldn't they have the right to protect us? So that's why they should have the right to censor us. The Supreme Court literally said, and once again, you're a Supreme Court justice, so you should know this. The Supreme Court literally said the police don't have any duty to protect us at all. So the police don't have a duty to protect us. But Ketanji Brown Jackson is trying to present an argument that the government has the right to censor us to protect us. You know how ridiculous that sounds to me at face value? Anyone who believes the government is doing anything, the government is expanding its power to protect you, and you believe them, you are a child. And that's what people like Ketanji, though, that is what that style of liberal generally believe. But King,
well, before we bring in Nick, first of all, I got to push back, and this causes us to have a fallout. But Cenk and Anna say the government doesn't do bad things, so
they used to.
They used to do bad things. Okay, they don't do it not anymore. Nick, be quiet. You are abusing violence and you're smearing the poor government.
Yeah, not since the church committee.
Violence is never okay except when the government does it. It's just perfect.
Go ahead, Keaton.
Go ahead, Keaton.
I was just going to say, this ruling didn't surprise me all that much. I mean, what Jackson said there, that is shocking, just because of how absolutely ass backwards it is. The whole point of the First Amendment is to hamstring the government. That's literally why it exists. In a theoretical nice world, in a nice country where the government can go to Facebook and say, hey, would you mind putting in place rules that say that you can't say certain things about viruses or whatever, and Facebook were free to say, no, we're not going to do that, but thanks anyway for asking. Okay, thanks for taking my call, bye-bye. Like, that is the world in which this ruling makes sense. It is a theoretical world, right? In reality, there's obvious coercive power behind every government interaction with anybody, much less these social media companies who, one by one, their CEOs have already been dragged into Congress and grilled and interrogated for hours. The Twitter files leaks show coercion going far beyond that. And so, look, I understand like the theoretical framework and logic behind this ruling, but it shows absolutely no awareness of recent history up until this very moment and going back far beyond the Iraq war. But Kit, that's a great point. I mean, look at how the media was really strong-armed into parroting this just transparently nonsense narrative in the run-up to what was just so obviously a war of choice.
Right. Real quick, and I just want to add this in here, but there was that story when Watergate was happening, and the Nixon administration was furious at the reporters that were breaking the story, and they were demanding that they get fired and censored and silenced. And their editor at the time was saying, "No, I'm going to fight for these guys. You won't get that now." And we can thank Bill Clinton for creating that environment. Take it away, Russ.
Well, see, I think that's part of what's going on here in terms of would they treat reporters like that? They don't have to anymore. They broke them. They broke them a long time ago. They completely corporatized those news divisions. They have that chummy, friendly relationship where those threats are not necessary. The press has become courtiers to the powerful now. When you look at those interactions in the Twitter file, I think part of what you're seeing is Silicon Valley is a new power base, and they're inclined towards libertarianism in their governing philosophies. And they are not from the traditional East Coast power bases that the legacy media and the government both come out of, the skull and bones people. They're not really coming out of that. They're coming out of a whole different ecosystem of wealth with a very different philosophy. And I think a lot of what you see going on with the guy with whatever you think about his tactics, the best name in the FBI, Elvis Chang. What you see Elvis Chang doing is basically trying to get them to submit in the way that the legacy media has. He's really running an op on them, trying to develop this, hey, we're all on the same team, right? They pulled this off with the corporate media decades ago. And it seems like that's what they were trying to do with them. But a point that Glenn Greenwald was making in his video about this is the press has certain established constitutional protections and legal protections. Now, sure, you look at what they're doing to Julian Assange, and you can see where the limit of those protections are. But nonetheless, there are some legal grounds to challenge the government interfering with what you're doing in that way. Whereas these tech companies have to live in fear that they're going to pull, I think the statute is 230. The statute
all the time
that allows them not to be held liable for what appears on their platforms. They're constantly dealing with that threat because there is no record of Supreme Court rulings for them to come back with and say, we don't have to do what you say. They can say that, and then they get dragged in front of Congress and threatened. So as Keaton says, sure, in an ideal world where they deal with them the way Glenn describes them dealing with The Intercept, could you not publish that and this is why, and then they could decide? Fine, but that's not the real world. Like, clearly, that's why I said, as soon as I saw this, I said, did they read the Twitter files there? That had to have been part of the evidence here. So how could Jackson even say something like that? Clearly,
I had
the
the same
was
reaction
and coercing them. Yeah, go ahead, CJ.
I had the same reaction. Like, how can you read the Twitter files or the reporting on the Twitter files and not say that is coercive? Like, you can, I mean, imagine like any authority figure making any suggestion. You get what I'm saying? Like, from a police officer, you think a police officer say, I think it's a good idea if you go over there. You think that's a suggestion? You get what I'm saying? Like, do you think when a person who has the power to take away your protection of 230?
230.
And yeah, and that person says, hey, we think this is a bad idea over here. That is cool. Like, just the you being in a subordinate position makes it coercive to me. But let's go back to this headline, and I'm going to read some of this and get your comment. the Supreme Court can dismantle the censorship industrial complex. When I saw that headline, I was like, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if the writing will be just as good as the headline. And actually, I was surprised that it was. I don't know who this person is, Hermet Dillion, but it's a pretty decent article. I took a snippet out of it. I'll read a little bit and get your comment. When the government coerces private actors such as Twitter or X to regulate speech that it cannot constitutionally regulate. Think about that. They're asking Twitter to regulate speech that the government can't constitutionally regulate itself.
Right.
Like the government can't go out and say, hey, you on the street, stop saying that. You get what I'm saying? But they're asking a platform to do that. And the article goes on to say, those private actors are no longer acting on their own private volition. They have become joint venturers of the government. This joint actor scheme to circumvent the Constitution should be subject to scrutiny under the First Amendment, just as the government itself would be if it were censoring speech directly without using a heavily regulated agent. What do you think of this concept that this first paragraph is talking about? Like the government is censoring you, but by way through a different entity, so you can't come to them and say the government's doing it. Like, what do you guys think of that concept, or any other part that you wanted to comment on this first paragraph here?
Well, this is the whole reason they were able to get away with this, is because they suggest to a private company that they change their rules, their terms of service, and therefore it's not technically government censorship, right? And to your earlier point, CJ, like, yeah, obviously the Twitter files demonstrated in plain sight coercion. Now, what they might say is that, yes, that example of the government leaning on Twitter was coercion, but they might argue that doesn't mean that all government interaction with all social media companies is coercive by definition, right? They might say, but because, like, basically what this ruling does is it kicks it back to the executive and the legislative branch, which in a functioning democracy means they're kicking it back to the voters. Basically, they're throwing it back to we the people, who look at this and say, okay, if Biden's FBI is coercing social media companies, then somebody has to run and somebody has to win, and whoever that person is has to put in place an FBI that's not going to coerce social media companies. Like that is in theory what they are saying. You may be able to point to certain instances where, yes, it's coercion, plain and simple. What the court here argued, and I think wrongly, especially given all this recent history, is that all interaction is not coercive in nature immediately. And I think, given, the events of the past several decades, it's just not possible to make that argument in any kind of real world context. Like, yeah, you can make it in a civics classroom at a university, but this is a physical world that we live in. And the court is, I think, supposed to take that into account when they are making these rulings. And this court clearly did not.
I thought it was very shocking to me to hear. Think about where we are as a society and tell me this is not a collapsing empire when the final judges, the final people that have judgment, who are supposed to interpret the Constitution, says that the Constitution hamstrings the government, that the Constitution gives power. That is just insane. But it took the Negro servant, I must say, to say that most ridiculous bullshit. But go ahead, kid.
Well, I mean, we've seen this before, and we've seen it to happen in previous empires and nations and republics. This is a dying empire, and what they want to do is not have the people talk about, hey, we're living in a dying empire. They don't want to say, hey, our politicians aren't representing us anymore. And we all know about it. I've been speaking to so many people across the political spectrum, and universally, we all are coming down to the same conclusion. The country is dying. It is sick. And the people in power don't want us to unite. They don't want us to talk about it. And when we have platforms like YouTube and Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, stuff that we've used a lot that are the number one social media platforms, they want to close that down. But then look at what happens to platforms that do challenge that authority, like Rumble or Odyssey. They're told to be, well, wait, we're going to start holding you back. They're going to start taking you to court. Look at what they did to Rumble in Brazil and in Britain as well, because they didn't like what was being platformed on those different platforms. And each government is wanting to do whatever they want to do to control the people because they don't want people speaking out against authority. And here in America, we have our First Amendment right to speak out. And that was purposely put in place so that we can hold our government accountable. But right now, since we have corporations controlling it and owning our politicians, they want to take that last aspect of freedom, the voice of the people, away. And as soon as they do that, they have the control and power to start removing every single one of us and censoring it. And each of us on this platform, each of us on this show right now, RBN, Do Dissidents, Hardlands Media, we have dealt with the jackboot of not only the YouTube censorship, but censorship and suppression and shadow banning on all the platforms that we use to communicate with our audience. And our audience, too, I still get messages from people saying, hey, how come I can't comment on your video? Or, hey, I'm not being notified when you go live. It is ways for which the corporations which control Silicon Valley, but also our politicians, to silence us. And through the Supreme Court ruling, I mean, it just gives them more ammunition to start going all in to remove our voice.
That's a great point. Before Nick and Russell, you chime in, let me just add another paragraph or two for you to also comment in, and we'll go to Nick and Russell. The Supreme Court has an opportunity to resolve this dissidence and protect Americans' freedom and freedom of speech from increasingly dictatorial government actors in state and federal agencies. The justices have an opportunity to stop government censorship masquerading as protecting Americans from vague threats such as misinformation. That protection, or quote unquote protection, has been badly abused by the government actors who are primarily interested in controlling national narratives that boost their own popularity or vilify their political opponent. And whoever was Russell or Nick, if you wanted to just add that part into your commentary, go ahead, sir.
I saw this segment on Laura Ingraham, who I never cover because she's not usually worth covering, but it was maybe like a few weeks ago. Well, she did this odd segment about how social media companies are driving teenage girls to suicide and depression. And I'm wondering, like, why is she doing this segment? Because she cover Republican Party politics, or she'll bash a Democrat. Maybe she may cover some foreign affairs because she's allowed to do that. She covered Trump stuff, but she did a random segment talking about how teenage girls are being bullied on social media. And then at the very end of the segment, her guest that she had to talk about it was like, this is why we need more tougher regulation on these social media companies. And there it is.
Right.
And when I was watching the segment, the premise is absurd. So Laura Ingraham is a hardcore capitalist Republican. She will watch you and your child die without health care, without losing an ounce of sleep. She will watch you and your homeless child freeze, homeless on the streets, without showing any sympathy. In fact, she would probably think you deserve it. But you believe that person really care about the mental health of your teenage daughter? Do people believe that? And this is the emotional angle that they set up. We're here to protect your children. When they go to that one, I know they're desperate. And when it comes to the security versus freedom argument, because people need to understand that what a lot of these issues come to, freedom versus security. Should we give it this freedom so we should have security, right? And people fall on both sides of that spectrum, whether you believe it or not. That's why people are not allowed to have grenades. Even the people who believe, I believe in the right, but most people don't believe in the right to have grenades. Why? We decide to give it the freedom of having the grenades because we feel very insecure with motherfuckers having grenades in their pocket. So we made that trade-off.
All right, when you guys meet up in Chicago, Russell, make sure you get the whole hotel at least 4 or 5 doors down from Nick. Just for safety, you know? Just in case anything goes wrong.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
The reason I bring that up because that's one of the few examples I can think of where most people will side on the security over freedom argument. But me personally, I always will favor the freedom over the security. And I think a lot of people favor the security over the freedom more than they willing to admit. That's why we got cop cities building everywhere.
All
But
right.
Russell, I know you want to go ahead, Russell.
All right. So, well, no, I mean, that's actually a good lead into the aspect of this that's kind of interesting to me on what you were just reading. And particularly speaking about it with you all, because I'm sure it doesn't escape you notice that the people who are reasonable on this court on this subject, the people who were dissenting, were the conservatives. They were the arch conservatives on the court. So in regards to what you just said, Nick, that is a philosophy that in this country you are most likely to hear from conservatives who are particularly libertarian inflected. I mean, it's just true. Now we're all. What's up?
To your point, I'll pass it right to you because I want to emphasize your point. Do you guys know that the Biden administration was trying to give the police the right to it would be legal if it passed, but he was trying to give the police the right to seize your gun without due process, and it was brutally struck down by the Supreme Court because they're like, have you guys lost your fucking mind? It's a blatant violation of the Second and Fourth Amendment, and I covered it. It was so long ago. It was like the early days of FHL. Where I was like, guys, you have the Biden administration that literally trying to push this law, and they was going to use it to target black people, poor working class people. Had the police seize their guns, and it was struck down by the Supreme Court. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Russell. I bring this up only because we have a right-wing Supreme Court that's to save the black people from an expanding police state where the police can randomly seize your guns. There was a Hallmark case where a cop came in and stole all these people's, it was like this black couple's guns, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the right-wing Supreme Court sided with them. That's the Supreme Court that liberals want us to vote Democrats in order to stop. But that Supreme Court
Exactly. And
go ahead, Russell.
Look who they put on that court. Ketanji Brown Jackson, who, you know what? For a Supreme Court justice to be that shallow is shocking. I think that's part of what was so shocking about that statement. But she is exactly the kind of creature that you would expect the liberal class that nominated her to want, because you can tell the way her mind works. I don't think she was making a dishonest argument, meaning I don't think she was reaching. I think she actually believes that, because what's the core assumption there? The government is good, and what the government is doing is right. That's her core assumption. So for her, the negotiation is, where is the limit that you want to place on the government stopping the stupid people from getting bad information, as opposed to what the government is going to give them, which it doesn't even cross her mind might be bad information. Now, Taibbi wrote an article responding to an attack partly on him and Schellenberger. Overall, it was a Times article covering very lamentfully, kind of foreshadowing this case and the lead into this case, how, the right wingers are winning in dismantling the war against disinformation, which of course we would call the censorship industrial complex. But for them, it's the war against misinformation. And reading the article, if you're reading it, I think from a perspective that we all share, it's one of those Times articles. Oh, this is terrible. Now they don't even want to interfere with content. And we're all looking at it going, or I'm reading it going, oh, that's great. That's great. So basically you're telling me we have to empower conservatives. That's what you're telling me in this article, because you're telling me the reason they're backing off now is because people like Jim Jordan are hitting them with 1,000 subpoenas on everything. And so it's making them, well, we don't want to do anything because we don't want to get dragged in front of Jim Jordan. So it puts people like us, who are not only on the left, but post-duopoly, it puts you in a bind, right? So what do you do? Do you support these guys? It's not like they're heroes. It's not like we agree with them on 99% of things, but it has gotten to the point, if you value speech and civil liberties, yes, are you better off with the Republicans? Hypocritical as they might be, as we've seen since October 7th, because a lot of these same people who are supposed to be free speech advocates want kids kicked off college campuses for being pro-Palestine. So let's not forget that. But nonetheless, you look at the Supreme Court case, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? I mean, definitely don't tell me I have to vote Democrat for the Supreme Court.
Well, look,
Not doing
ultimately, the judicial branch is designed as a sort of anti-democratic check on the other two branches, which are more
Right.
democratic in nature. That's what the Supreme Court is, right? It is not accountable to the will of the people. They are simply there to interpret the Constitution. And so ultimately, every Supreme Court ruling somewhere in the subtext is, do we take this decision out of the hands of the people, or do we put this matter in the hands of the people? And in this case, they put it back in the people's hands because they didn't step in and say, no, it is unconstitutional for the government to do this. What that means is it's up to us whether we want a government that will choose to do it or choose not to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is basically what they are saying here. And so, yes, what Russell said is true. It's up to us to put in place a government that will choose not to use its coercive power to censor speech. Which options are on the table this year? Zero. And that's the rub. Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but let me add this point, because when you couple the Supreme Court possible decision, what it all likelihood is going to be leaning to, which is allowing him to suppress Twitter, combine that with banning TikTok,
Right.
how are we how is the framing Trump is the authoritarian fascist? How is it that we want to avoid fascism by voting for Biden, as if fascism censorship is not here now? So all of that, and also this final question: how are young people going to react at the ballot box if Twitter is banned? So if you want to add this in, whoever wants to take that on first, go ahead.
Do you mean
Add
Twitter or
into the
TikTok?
conversation.
TikTok.
I'm
yeah.
sorry,
'Cause
TikTok.
they care more
I keep
about
saying it.
TikTok.
Yes, TikTok. I'm sorry, TikTok. Yes, go ahead.
I mean, we could sit here and speculate. I mean, ideally, I do hope that, there is more of awareness of younger people saying, hey, why is this happening? And maybe look at our platforms through independent media about why this is going on and why they shouldn't put their faith or trust into Biden or the Democrats. But I'm very curious about the voter turnout, because I've been looking at the entire primaries, and for the Democrats, it's been absolutely pathetic. My state, 20% of the population here turned up to vote. In Hawaii, which is a solid blue state, for example, a previous primary, they had like 20,000. There were 20,000 votes for Biden, 22,000 votes for Bernie, or something of that nature. This year, it was almost barely reaching 1,000. So voter turnout's going to be key. And I think in many ways, a lot of young people aren't enthusiastic about Biden. There's this since his 4 years of being in the White House.
That's crazy. That's crazy. They haven't seen the Dark Brandon memes. That hasn't lit them on fire.
It's not going to do it, but because also, not to mention, you got a lot of people who follow those larger TikTok platforms, and building a platform on that, people are losing their business. If TikTok is truly like done, a lot of people are going to be angry that they're losing content that they like to consume, and if that's gone, people are going to be upset that you took away their treat.
Right. Well, especially because presumably it's all going to go over to Zuckerberg, and he's going to censor it. He's going to censor it the way he censors Facebook. It's not going to be the same experience.
Yeah, but Zuckerberg even have a good product with Threads, because that's
not Threads. It would be Instagram. It would be Reels. That would be where the TikTok.
It's going to go to
traffic would
Reels.
go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Instagram is pretty hot now. The kids all love it from what I hear. But yes, it is a much more censorious platform. Much more censorious. I mean, Facebook, Meta, like that's the worst. That's the worst of them all.
All right, let's roll into this next topic, and then we'll get to super chats after this next topic. So let's roll into this, and this is just a couple of so we started with the censorship, and partly the censorship is needed to control the narrative more broadly for the ruling class. But censorship is actually needed right now in order to sort of stop the hemorrhaging of the Biden administration and these liberal sort of administrations. So let's move to this thing here. Without people like Pramila Jayapal, like AOC, like Bernie Sanders, I don't think the Biden administration would even be coming close to even making it a race with Joe Biden. I really think that they're helping to fool people enough to where, okay, let's try this lesser of two evil one more time. But the broader point I want to make in the topic of this next segment, which is nearly everyone in the Bernie Sanders coalition has sold out. And I just want to just kind of just gauge all of you. When back when the coalition was in its prime and we were all friends, Nick, you talk about it all the time, how over at Status Quo, Jordan loved you and everybody loved you. Like at that time when we all kind of still believed that in this movement, we never would have thought that so many of those people we were, thinking were allies to us would turn around and sell out to the establishment. So the question I want to start with all of you is just to throw out a name, but name anyone from the Bernie Sanders industrial complex or the Bernie Sanders coalition that hasn't sold out. The only people I can kind of think of is like maybe a Shama Sawant and a Chris Hedges, if you consider them part of that sort of Bernie Sanders coalition. But let's go through and see. Look at the number of people that sold out: Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Pramila Jayapal, TYT, Majority Report. Some say Nina Turner, some say don't. But let's throw Nina Turner in there, and shockingly to somebody, even Cornel West. And then I'm going to throw Nick and Rome in there as some other people who was part of the coalition, because those were people that were out there walking the walk. They haven't sold out. Is there anybody I'm missing on the sold out or the non-sold out side before I get to the Bernie podcast? Have you ever thought about that, Nick?
All right.
Or Russell, go ahead.
All right. Look, I always say this, man. I always say Briahna is like a great meal with toenails in it. I would not say sold out. She has
what kind, man? Put that on a Valentine's Day.
That was a great analogy. Yeah. That was a great analogy.
No, man, because you're eating it.
You should be in the greeting card business. That's good. You should be in the greeting card business.
What? You're like, oh, what's that take? What's that take? Is that a toenail? Oh, what does that take? It was so good until she said that. So I would say
you were saying you don't think she sold out, but go ahead.
Oh, I don't think she sold out. I think she has some very dumb takes at times, but she comes by them honestly. But when you look at things like I don't feel like it's because she sold out. But when you look at where she's at when it comes to standing up on third parties, when it comes to refusing to back the Democrat. Yeah, man, I would not call her somebody who's sold out. I disagree with her, it's never because I feel like she's sold out. It's because I feel like she had a bad take.
I think even more to the point than necessarily selling out is that conversation that she and Cenk had that we were originally going to cover, I guess, but now it's old news. That was a conversation like they are just stuck 3 years ago. Like that whole conversation that they're talking about Democrats exercising leverage. I mean, that's yesterday already. I mean, that's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the point of spending an hour and a half on that? I don't understand. What year am I living in
what I'm talking
that I'm watching an hour and a half? No, that's not selling out. But I'm just saying, I think that's a more important sort of
toenail
question than now. Is like, why is this still even a conversation? After Force the Vote, we all should have been out. That's it. Democrats done. I didn't get out exactly at that point. I hung around for the Build Back Better because they promised to hold the line. An idiot that I was, I took them at their word that they were going to, and they made an asshole out of me. And that was the very last time, that I invested 1 ounce in the Democratic Party. And that was I stuck around longer than I should have. Like, in retrospect, I was wrong to get as invested in those Build Back Better talks, because all the lessons that I learned during the Build Back Better talks were lessons that I should have learned from the Force to Vote. I was for Force to Vote, obviously, but I thought once that legislative fight came around later that year, if they could actually either win that fight or blow up the deal, that would be a good thing. Of course, what I didn't realize is that they were never willing to blow up the deal, because they were never willing to give their party the L. They were never willing to have to make Joe Biden take the L, which means they were never really negotiating at all. Manchin and Sinema won before the game began because Manchin and Sinema were willing to blow up the deal and they weren't. So that's my bad. Like, I look back on that period with regret. So if I had a conversation about this 4 years later, rather than Cenk getting all defensive about everything, I would say, yeah, I stuck around through the Build Back Better thing, and I was wrong. I should have learned the lesson 9 months prior in January when they wouldn't force the vote. That's my mistake. That's it. That's it. That's a 5-minute conversation. I don't know why that conversation was an hour and a half.
Because he got triggered, because he was made an ass out of, and people saw just what kind of a clown he is, and the fact that he was carrying water for the Justice Democrats in brand new Congress, and they don't even show up on his goddamn show anymore, and he has to live with that L, and Jimmy Dore is living rent free in his freaking head, tap dancing all the while, and Cenk can't deal with the fact that TYT is no longer relevant. Plus, those politicians in DC showed that Cenk is not a person to be taken seriously, because he gave them all that power. He opened the door, and he assumed, like, what? They were going to listen to a phone call at 3 a.m. in the morning when Cenk called them and says, you should do this. That was never going to happen, because he designed all of his organizations and his entire political movement with Justice Democrats ass backwards. He never made a contract with the squad or anybody else who was going to get the Justice Democrats nomination. Like, hey, we're going to hold you accountable. Like, you have to follow us so you're not trapped. They threw them in the swamp, and they expected them to be pure. That wasn't going to happen, Cenk, and he has to live with that.
Go ahead, Russell. I think you were chiming in. Go ahead.
Yeah, Keaton, man, I'm gonna help you out here, man. You don't need to feel that bad, Keaton. I was right there with you, man. I
didn't say I feel bad. I just say I was wrong.
Yeah,
it's not a matter of feeling bad. Like, there's no shame in being wrong if you acknowledge it and understand it and learn from it. There's shame in insisting you're right when evidence presents itself year after year after year, and you can't give it up because you have some emotional hang-up.
Yeah, but I don't really agree, man, because at that point, I mean, we were doing the show pretty regular by then, and I remember that we were both talking about the strategy and the Build Back Better and all that shit.
Well, we didn't know you guys then. We would have been roasting you motherfuckers then. We would have been roasting you if you'd have been talking about that shit. Go ahead.
Well, luckily, nobody really did. It was just an audio podcast at the time.
We didn't have an audio.
So you were latte drinking liberals, huh?
That was what we call BVM, before Vanguard Mate.
Yeah.
After we did that video, we were in a different world. But
that was even before YouTube. That was when we were an audio podcast.
We were an audio podcast, but you had the COVID thing. That was part of why we were like, hey, man, apocalypses don't come around very often. Maybe that'll change things. But more to the point, Jimmy was calling Sanders as a sheepdog as soon as he endorsed Hillary. He was way out ahead of where most people were willing to be at that time. And at the time, I said, you know what, man? I'm not saying he's wrong. He could very well be right. But I got to leave it all on the field, man. I got to see if an inside change the party approach will work before I can really commit in my heart to burn it all down. Like, I have to do that. And I feel like the Build Back Better thing, that was kind of the end of the road. That was the end of the road. And I mean, from my end, I feel like the only reason we probably took it seriously, maybe you feel differently, is because of COVID, because of the context. There was some hope maybe now they will actually stand up for something because of these circumstances. And when they didn't, we lit it on fire, burned the bridge, and never went back.
No, I think
That-
everybody
that was the point.
deserves grace. You deserve grace. Everybody, it doesn't matter when you got here, as long as you have arrived. But I'll make sure Nick, Nick, you were gonna chime in,
Yeah,
sir.
I relate to a lot of what Russell said. I was one of the people I wanted to see it attempted,
Right.
but there was a lot of people, and this is because I was a sweet summer child. I'm still am a revolutionary optimist, and especially back then I was extremely revolutionary optimistic. I'm thinking like, bro, we about to have Medicare for all in like 4 years. Like, bro, I was so delusional. I was such a summer child. Like, I was so optimistic about the future. So that's like this optimism, this naivete I used to have. It would let me be like, all right, let's try this shit. And it was always with the caveat at the end, like after 2020, if we lose in 2020, it's time to burn this motherfucker down. And this is where my miscalculation came from, because I thought we was building a revolutionary movement. You guys see my miscalculation?
Mm-hmm.
No, the burning movement was a bunch of Democrats who wanted healthcare. It was a bunch of liberals who wanted to cancel their student debt. But they still was attached to the Democratic Party. You guys see my miscalculation? And I want to admit I was wrong on this. I thought, and I was down for a revolution. Obviously, Keaton and Russell was down for a revolution. Keaton, CJ, most of the people in our faction, right, we were down for revolution. And we teamed up with these people who obviously did not understand the assignment. These people did not understand the assignment.
Sure.
And we was like, when Bernie like, we're going to have political revolution, me and CJ, we was like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
But we didn't understand that they didn't mean the same thing we did. That's why I learned to.
Well, the other thing about the Build Back Better that was just so offensive, and this is why I have no patience for anybody for whom that was not the last straw, is they made an explicit promise over and over and over again. An explicit, in no uncertain terms promise: we will not pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill through without Build Back Better. They said it over and over and over again, and then they did it anyway. You cannot break a promise in broad daylight like that, as severe as that, and expect to hold people who have any fucking brain. That's why. Like, that was it. That was it. And I had not turned back since. And so, that's how that went.
But for me, that's what allowed me that psychological freedom.
I think
left it all on the field, man. We tried everything. That's it.
I think a lot of people are right now, especially with this election cycle, are at a point to where they're trying to come to terms about every single failure that the Democrats have done. And so, in regards to the previous question, like, who do I think is not sold out completely? I mean, look, I like Briahna Joy Gray. I think she's had some pretty good takes here and there. Then she has a couple of the, okay, here we go. But as for the entire Bernie Sanders movement, what Bernie Sanders, I think, what my opinion is this: what he has failed to put into check is that people were listening to his message, and he has been doing everything in his power to try and derail the overall anger and resentment that a lot of Americans have towards the neoliberal system. Notice how he's trying to tell people to vote Democrat, and he's doing this podcast, and he's telling people he's going to be talking about his book, that it's okay to be angry about capitalism, because he's trying to calm people down to sheep herd them right back into the Democratic Party. And we are at a very critical point right now, I think, for this election cycle, not being the most important, but the most interesting, in which people can systematically say, we are not going to vote Democrat. And a lot of people are not comfortable saying that, like how we are. Normal people who don't consume politics like we do are finding out for themselves that this is how it's always been, and they're either going to be confused, scared, nervous, and we have to tell people, like, hey, it's always been like this. Welcome to the club. You're not alone, and there's other ways in which we could implement change, and you don't have to be a sucker or a servant to the Democratic establishment or cucks like Bernie Sanders, a nutless wonder who had the chance, had lightning in the bottle, and gave us the middle finger. So many people sacrificed for this son of a bitch, and he did nothing in return.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Kid, I don't appreciate your tone, okay? Your tone.
My words.
My words sound like violence. It's violence to me right now. How dare you slander the great Bernie Sanders? Don't you know he wrote a book? He wrote a book that told you that it's okay to be angry at capitalism. How dare you smear him?
Violence like AOC towards her boyfriend. I don't know if that video's been taken down, but there was a scene when they were leaving the movie theater where he puts his arm around her and she's like, "Get off!"
Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I gotta find it. It's on my show. I gotta go ahead and find it from one of my previous lives.
So
it was a work of art. It was magnifique.
So gentlemen, Kid has already been talking about it. So we were leading up to this. This is the latest version, the 2024 version
Jesus
of
Christ.
how to sell out to the establishment. And here's Bernie Sanders. And I'll just read it, and then I'll get back to everybody comments here. Oops, it's over here. All right, so this is Bernie Sanders' tweet. I am excited to announce that this week I am launching a new podcast. In the first few episodes, we discuss my recent book. It's okay to be angry about capitalism. That's the bait. Understand? That's the bait. The first few episodes is about the book, the bait. That's the bait to bring you in. If you'd like a copy of the book, you can make a contribution today of $12 or any amount you can afford at this website, and we'll send it to you in the mail. So the question I have written down that I wanted to kind of broach with everybody, this is the latest version of Bernie Sanders selling out. But where was Bernie Sanders' podcast when it was time to push Medicare for all, or when it was time to push $15 minimum wage? Think about the timing, the selection of, hey, him saying, I finally want to jump in. What is he jumping in for? Do we all understand what this guy is getting a podcast for? Like Kid already alluded to it. We all understand what this guy is getting a podcast for 8-9 months away from the election. He is here to sheep herd people. Yep. And you notice they're bringing out all the stops because the poll numbers aren't changing. Right. So they're having to go into overdrive. And I believe this podcast is speaking to that. But anybody wants to chime in and take on that, the question of why do you think the timing, and can you speak to that, the timing of his podcast, and what do you believe he's going to be talking about?
Well, first of all, I mean, I again, look at how this election cycle is being covered in comparison to what we saw in 2016 and 2020. The energy isn't here. The enthusiasm is gone. The great crowds show up for the Democrats, and people so angry and triggered by Donald Trump, they don't have that Bernie Sanders outlet. See, the thing is, the neoliberals thought that everyone would just be subservient to Joe Biden, that the soul would be okay, and everyone would be happy with our crap sandwich. But no, it's not working. Voter turnout is abysmal, especially in key blue states like in my state or Hawaii or all the other previous states. Biden, while he is the nominee, he isn't drawing in the massive crowds. He's not filling up stadiums or large event rallies like Donald Trump is. So they got to dust out old Bernie Sanders and have him yapping about being angry about capitalism, talking about this fantastic freaking book. He's probably, I mean, again, when you see these politicians write a book, you know, they're having people buy those books so the numbers go up. And so he's going to talk about the book, and that's the bait. Like you said, the bait. And then he's going to talk about Trump, why we got to vote for Joe, why Joe's going to do this, and here's how we can really work with the system. It's about luring people in, taking down their guard, and entrapping them into being voters and suckers for the Democratic Party, because old man Bernie's here to remind you, remember 2016? Remember 2020? Remember when we were getting angry and then I sold out after you gave me all your hard-earned money? I sold out. I bent over backwards, spread my cheeks, and gave away your email addresses to everyone, which is why you're always getting text messages and goddamn emails from the Democratic Party. I get a text message from Mary Trump, and she tells me I got to donate money to the Democratic Party because her Uncle Trump is so bad because he's an extreme right-winger.
Hello, this is Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all
whoever
a
wants
trap.
to chime in, go ahead.
It's a trap.
This is the marvels of political podcast franchises. It's a podcast for an audience that does not exist. I don't know who they think is going to be interested in this, is going to watch this. It's almost sad looking at how they did this very hip logo that let's face it, back in the day, we would have found this so cool, right? We would have found this very inspiring. We all would
But
have
the
been like,
leftist
oh,
mafia is
yeah.
losing their shit right now. I don't know what you're talking about. Bro, the leftist mafia is so fucking hyped.
His audience is gone. Who's gonna watch this? Because that libs who want Medicare for all, that's not a big audience, man. Like, most of his crowd walked away. Most of his crowd is gone. You know, you got that that's like the Majority Report TYT thing. That's it. I mean, that's it. That's the audience for something like this. And I don't even think those people are going to sit down and listen to a Bernie podcast anymore. Who the fuck talks about Bernie in a serious way at this point? Nobody. This is how irrelevant he has become. When he changed his position and decided, I don't know how many more years I have left. Maybe it would be bad for my legacy to support genocide on the way off this planet. So he turns around and kind of goes against genocide. Nobody even covered that shit. Nobody cared. I didn't see that in the mainstream media. I didn't see it in alternative media. Nobody cared because nobody's paying attention to him. What's the point of doing this podcast? Now, did they put him up to it? Maybe, or maybe it's his ego. You know, maybe he just can't accept the fact that he's not relevant, and the movement that he built not only doesn't pay attention to him, but really can't stand him at this point.
Yeah.
I just hope they censor the shit out of this podcast.
Community guidelines violation? What did I say? YouTube, Team YouTube. I want to know what exactly I said and where.
Oh man, I would love that.
What's this about a warning?
Oh, yeah. I would love that so much.
Go
That would
ahead.
be pure gold. That would be gold content right there.
Here, I just did a rough mock-up of a meme that I thought was pretty good. I made it for you on the spot. I'm going to share it to the screen if I can.
Here we go, right there. There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly spot on. And this is full circle. What we're witnessing, gentlemen, is full circle, and we're all proof of how this has come full circle. We all were believers, and now we all are his biggest critics. And I'll let Nick end this segment here because I know Nick has a lot. You've been one that went out pounding the pavement, Nick. You spoke and talked to hundreds, if not thousands of people. You quit your job, bro. You quit your fucking job for this movement because you really believed in it, and now we're full circle with this clown show we call Bernie Sanders, Nick. But go ahead, sir. Take us on.
First thing first, isn't this what liberals make fun of Ted Cruz for? You know, the senator with a podcast.
Oh, right. Yeah,
why is it okay now that Bernie Sanders doing it? That's something that they hammer on Ted Cruz on all the time. And now this podcast is gonna be hilarious because you can, like CJ said earlier, like this is gonna make for great content. Especially when he get to talk about elections. God forbid any conversation about Ukraine come up. We're going to make for great content. You already know there's going to be an unbelievable amount of cringe, social democrat nonsense. And it's going to feel much better to react to because Nina Turner had a show on YouTube. And I did like one reaction video where she was like defending the Ukraine war. And I was like, it was like, oh man, that was like low-hanging fruit because her show is so bad. But with Bernie Sanders, you already know the content that we about to get out of that show is got to be spectacular. And Nina Turner, like, I did one reaction show to her show. I was like, all right, that was like low-hanging fruit, punching low. That's why I haven't done it ever since because the show is that bad. But with Bernie, oh bro, you already know I'm gonna light his ass up. Wait till his show comes
Aaron,
out.
you can start making the thumbnails already. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah.
All right, let's take some super chats. Why aren't there $27 super chat options? Why is it only 5, 10, 20?
Last thing I'm gonna say, go back to the tweet. Do you mind pulling the tweet up back if you still have it? Because to me, this is the glaring reason why. I think all the reason why you guys say is legitimate as well, but this is the glaring reason why he's doing this. Like to me, I would think he would hide it,
man. The money, yo.
I thought he would hide it more than this. But look at this. The first few episodes, we discussed my recent book.
It's not even that recent a book. I think it came out, 2 years ago, that book? It's been out for a long time already.
But apparently not selling as much as you want. He need to get that fourth house. He need to get that fourth house. So this is something that I come to realize over the last few years. Because remember, I was a sweet summer child, my friends. I was one of the people that believe if you didn't take corporate cash, you must not be corrupt. That's how fucking ridiculous that Bernie people are, how it used to be. Now you realize that there's many different avenues of corruption. Book deals is the number one way to corrupt people.
Yeah.
So I have a proposal for the working class. It's not the first time I said it. If you are someone, you're running for office, I declare no books in your resume for us to ever take you seriously. You know how Marianne Williamson ran to sell a book? All these candidates ran to sell a book. Bernie Sanders ultimately ran to sell a book. You know who has a book that's about to come out? Cenk Uygur.
That came out already.
It came out already.
That's why they run. And then once they sell out to the
Ryan Grimm sold a book, Nick.
Everyone's writing a book. You know what? I'm writing a book now.
Once they sell out to the establishment, they take these book deals. And that's another way for them to sell out without corporate cash. You know who got a book deal? Cory Bush. What the fuck did Cory Bush do to get a book deal? Now people will say, well, don't you think it's historic that Cory Bush was a nurse and then she ran and she won a seat in Congress? She was elected. So that's why she deserves a book. Since when is being elected an accomplishment worthy of writing a book over? Being elected, and this is a position electors should have, is the start. What these people in the establishment do, they get elected like, all right, we're done. Time to write a book about it. Time to sell out. And that's what Cory Bush do. So they write these books, and all of a sudden, Cory Bush is voting for all the Ukraine war packages.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how they sell you out, and that's why if you are running for office, because I don't think it's a coincidence that if you was to like pick out the professions that are most likely to run to become a leader, to become part of public office, obviously you have lawyer be up there pretty high. Then undisputably, either number one or number two would be author. The people who are willing to write books. So what is the correlation between people who are willing to write books and their willingness to publicly serve? Do people really think that people who write books are more likely to serve public office who have that will and drive to do that? Or are they just trying to fucking hustle you?
Probably.
So to me, and in my point of view, if you write books and if you're selling books, we shouldn't take you fucking seriously because it's obviously a grift that the capitalist class taking advantage of. If you're writing a book and you're selling a book, what is the best way to market a book? There's no better way to market a book than running for fucking office. Mm-hmm. You get free publicity, all that. But go ahead, Russell.
Well, I looked that up with Cenk when he announced, and his book was ranked. It was ridiculous. It was like 86,000 or something.
Oh yeah, I watched that stream. I think I watched you guys talk about that. I vaguely remember.
So I looked this up since we're talking about this. All right, so on Amazon, Sanders' book is ranked. He's doing better than Cenk, but that's not saying much. 14,414 on Amazon, and on Barnes and Noble, his sales rank is 21,828. So
those are numbers.
Those are bad, right? Those numbers are bad. Those are bad.
Those bad.
I could beat those numbers. I'm gonna write my book.
He's being outsold by Wuthering Heights, and that was published 150 fucking years ago.
Maybe podcasting is more his medium. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna write my book, guys. I'm gonna make my announcement. I Am Always Right: The Kit Cabell Story of Struggle and Adversity.
All right.
We're gonna pause now for a word from our sponsors. This podcast brought to you by our friends at Blue Chew. Every man in this country has had intimacy problems from time to time. You are not alone.
All right.
I assure you. Enter coupon code Feel the Book.
Kick, are you ready to do the Cenk story next? The Cenk and Anna, love the CIA story. I think
Keaton
we
or
can
me?
do that next. I'm sorry, Keaton. I said Kit.
Okay.
Keaton.
Oh yeah. I thought you said Kit too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we'll do that next, but let's read some super chats and then we'll get to the Cenk and Anna loves the CIA with Kit. Kit will be running that segment next. Go ahead, Nick, with the super chats.
Dude, I can't believe that's a real video. I saw that the first time, like, wait, this had to be like an old video, right? Apparently, something that they said in the Dear Lord 2024. So this segment gonna be something else. Thank you for being a member, Tarkish, Edwin Rodriguez as well. A big shout out to the homie Zombie in the Air.
Wow, we got a lot of new members this
there you go.
So
as you should.
Absolutely. Thank you for getting some memberships. It's a powerful name, Zombie in the Air. That is not where I want to see my zombies. I want my zombies very immobile.
Exactly.
The zombie shows where them motherfuckers got mobile zombies, like, damn, you guys are fucked, bro. Anyway, thanks for the $2, Jax. So glad the Post-Duopoly show is back. Absolutely. You already know we had to reunite. That was just a hiatus, my friend. We are back with another banger. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Big shout out to Biden with the super sticker as well. We have Steve with the 499, 3 of my favorite channels together. Let's go. Appreciate the 499, my brother Steven. And they want to show some love to Mario in the chat with them.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Hey, Mario's a fan of ours. Russell, why don't you got the cowbell? We'll give you a little bit of due dissidence love. We bust out the cowbell.
Right on.
We give them the cowbell left treatment when we get a donation that big. So there you go.
See, that's why due distance killing the game. We need to do fun shit like that. That's funny. So
yeah, we need
to
do
for
fun.
You need more props. You need more props. You need to do more prop
we need
comedy.
more physical comedy.
You do more prop comedy, and you got to learn a little close-up magic too.
We underestimated the effectiveness of physical comedy in YouTube. That's definitely something we underestimated.
You know what you need, Nick? You
Thank
need
you,
one of
Martin,
those hand
though. Thank you,
grenades
Martin.
that you like so much. You got a big super chat, you pull a grenade, throw it
Everybody
up the
show
window.
some love to Martin. Show some love to Martin in the super chat in the chat. Show some love to Martin.
Yeah, I'll read 3 more and then I'll say the rest of the super chats to later. Then for $10, Ryan and 76. Love you guys, but why won't you even mention Dr. Shiva's campaign? His ideas align exactly with yours. Some of us have been arrested just for collecting signatures. Once
Did
again,
you threaten to kill the person you were just getting a signature from? Is that what? No, that guy is fucking obnoxious. I mean, that's why nobody talks about him. Yeah, he's a very hostile person.
And he's not U.S. born, so he's like in Cenk's position. That's the reason why I haven't covered him is because he can't.
Bro, I have people ask me this multiple times. I can't. Guys, I'm fucking done, fam. You realize I had Marianne Williamson, Dr. Cornel West. Well, I already interviewed presidential candidates, and not one of those motherfuckers I ever asked to do it. This is the big thing that people miss about the whole storyline between me, Marianne Williamson, and Dr. Cornel West. I'm like the only motherfucker who interviews presidential candidates without wanting to do it. They reached out to us. Marianne Williamson reached out to us. Dr. Cornel West reached out to us, and we was burned 2 times. I'm done with this. So Dr. Shiva, they reached out to. I'm like, bro, I'm done interviewing presidential candidates. I had Jose Vega on. Jose Vega is running for office, and he mentioned on the show. Actually, he mentioned it before he came on. He like, man, I'm nervous, man. This is the first time I've been on to announce my candidacy. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot you was running, bro. Like, I didn't invite you on.
You know what? Interview's canceled.
It's canceled.
Canceled. Done.
I invited Jose Vega on because I like him. I think he's interesting. I think he does great activism. And then he brought up the fact that he ran. I'm like, oh, I guess you do run. I guess let's talk about that, I guess. Like, it was the fact that I found him interesting first. Like, I'm done with candidates. You guys know how many congressional candidates? They're like, hey, Nick, I heard you saw this tweet here. Can I come on my show? No. No. I don't fuck with electoral politics like that. And a lot of people misunderstood because I interviewed Cornell, because I interviewed Marianne outside my own willing to do so. I did because Marianne Williamson people wanted her to come on my show so much because we hurt their feelings. So you have Marianne Williamson fans that are like, come on, man, why do you have Marianne on? Why do you have Marianne on? It was to the point where Marianne Williamson herself replied to me like, hey, man, I would love to come on your show. And then she was upset that I decided to grill her. You decided to waste my motherfucking time. That's 20 minutes. We could have talked about anything else, but you decided to come on. But you thought I was going to be nice to you? So I'm done with candidates. Like, there are channels for that. There are people who want to interview candidates, but I am not doing that. I am not interested in people who are trying to enrich themselves and get power for themselves. What have you done? Show me your legacy of organizing your community. Do that. I'm not interested in talking to these people. So nothing personal to Dr. Shiva. These people have been asking me these questions for a long time. Why don't you have Dr. Shiva on? I'm done. Like, I'm done with candidates. Did
Sabby interview him?
Yeah. And CJ, when Sabby interviewed Dr. Shiva, like, all right, RBN interviewed him. We're done.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, you have to take us holistically. Sometimes, literally, Sabby is our interview person. I went through this in the stream before. Sabby's our interview person. She's the ones that's gonna do most of our interviews. That's Sabby. You're gonna go to her channel to watch that. And so she has interviewed him. Nick, did you have any other super chats you wanted to read?
I'll read two more and then we move on. I do it so we don't get buried too much, but I'll just read two more and then we can move on. I think for the $5, Vaquero Supreme, Bernie the podcast might as well be an idiot and listen to Pod Save America. They're gonna have the same saving democracy.
They're doing a live show.
Where?
Oh God.
I think in New York.
Oh, they've done big shows.
I'd rather go watch Yo Gabba Gabba live or something like that than to go watch. Like, I'll go watch.
Rather go see the Ice Capades.
Than that.
Dude, I just want to see the audience. I want to see what the audience look like. It's probably the most old.
Okay, all right. So those guys, like, I wouldn't, do an action on them. It would kind of be funny to go interview people like. So what is it you like about Pod Save America?
That will be
like
funny.
That's going to be so cowbell left, like everybody in that audience.
They reaffirm my feelings and they tell me to be afraid of Trump. He's outside my house right now looking in. Trump's going to get inside.
Dude, ask them toss-up questions and just wait to see how crazy their answer is going to be. And like, for example, I would love to go to like a Pod Save America event and be like, hey, what do you think Biden should do with the situation in China and Taiwan? And just let them go. Anyway,
well, it's very complicated, and that's why we can't have Trump. We cannot have somebody like Trump.
I believe the Chinese Communist Party is definitely about to make a move on Taiwan, so I think it's urgent that we send arms and munitions. Anyway,
yeah, no, they actually did. I was just checking to make sure I had that right because it sounds insane, but I do remember this. They actually did a live show, believe it or not, at Radio City Music Hall. That's how big
America?
They are. Yes.
Wow, that is not cheap.
They were able to fill.
It's the biggest indoor theater in the world. 5,936 seats. Yes.
No, Radio City,
biggest indoor theater in the world. Yes.
There of all places,
it's not bigger than Madison Square Garden.
That's technically an arena, not a theater.
Oh, I see.
A proscenium theater. It's the largest indoor proscenium theater in the world. Yes. I was a tour guide at Radio City Music Hall for 2 years. Fun fact.
Oh yes, I can't fuck with you on that.
Come out there and give us a tour. But go ahead, Nick.
Last super chat. The only audience that probably be more cringe than that. Like, you guys ever see
it's Brooklyn. I'm right. Yeah, it's
like
Brooklyn.
Who? Like Greg Gutfeld. Like, I can't believe he has a show.
Oh yeah.
Like, he has like the most cringe comedy I've ever seen in my life. I seen like these clips of where they like pan into his audience. It's like a fucking nursing home.
Oh yeah.
So I can only imagine that's what Pod Save America audience is gonna look like. Anyway, that was like my first thought because I remember this old clip where it showed like the audience of people watching that show, literally a retirement fucking home. I can only imagine what Pod Save America is like.
All right,
we move on.
All right, these guys. Hang on, am I able to share this? Yeah, I can share this, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Share something if you got something out, or one of us will put it up.
All right, so these guys are getting like $150 a ticket.
Oh my God!
Oh,
Jesus Christ!
Wow.
Oh,
this is June 26th in Brooklyn.
We're doing
$126 a ticket.
Oh man,
there's 145.20. 146.
So Nick, that answers your question. Wow. Who you're gonna see in the audience? It's not gonna be no working class people. It's not gonna be. You get what I'm saying? Like if you got to pay that to go see them, that just means
all right.
You're not gonna see that. So there
I'm not paying to watch that shit because that'll be like a spike in my head. But I am gonna go over there to interview people outside to see.
That would be very.
That would be fucking hilarious.
I am gonna go and interview people.
Do it.
Yes.
There you go.
Dude, that would be a banger of a video. Last super chat, and then we had to move on. We read the rest here soon. Thanks for the $5. Do all things with love. What a powerful name. Have you gotten the emails claiming to be from Warnock, but sent from Schumer's email asking for money, and by default half go to Schumer? Shady as F. I still get like fucking Democrat text messages. I'll never forget Bernie. I'll never forget Bernie for selling his email list, selling his people out like that. I don't know if I got this exact email, but yeah, I get those fucking cringe ass emails all the time. And as much as I want to like respond and be like, fuck you, I already know they're like automated. But anyway, CJ, we can move on.
Yeah, all right. So, Keaton, if you got anything to share, let me know, or I can bring up the video. It's up to you. Which, if you want to control it, you can share it you like.
Oh yeah,
but we're gonna be doing the the Cenk segment is next, and I'll pass it to you, sir.
Fat Tony.
Yeah. All right. So this is a video featuring friends of the show, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, talking about how the CIA used to do bad things back in a darker, more insidious time. So here they are making the point that the CIA used to be a threat here at home, but not so much anymore because they got stupid, apparently. Come on, load. What's going on? Why isn't it working? Fucking thing sucks. Fucking thing sucks.
Fucking
yeah,
thing
if it's
sucks.
Twitter, it does that shit all the time.
Yeah,
If
why
it's
is it doing
Twitter.
that?
Like when you
I
have
usually
it, you gotta refresh it.
All right, hang on.
You gotta refresh it, I think.
According to the
Twitter,
CIA,
refresh it.
according to
It'll be okay.
according to TYT, the CIA was properly reformed.
I'm nervous to fuck with my Windows. I don't want my horse porn folder to pop up.
Carry at the Pentagon.
All right, here we go. Go ahead.
All right, here we go.
Now that's a
All right.
reference.
Here we go.
There was a time in America where the State Department would the Pentagon would orchestrate and carry out coups in, Latin American countries, for instance, or in Iran. Like there was a time when the government engaged in all sorts of unsavory schemes across the globe. That's definitely true, okay? Wow. That's not the government we have today. How does anyone look at honestly, I don't think the current federal government is even competent enough to carry out a coup. I mean, they tried multiple times in Venezuela and failed. And the way, some of the MAGA Republicans, quite honestly, talk about the federal government makes me think, oh my God, they're asleep at the wheel. They don't understand just how incompetent the federal government is. They can't get anything straight. They can't get anything straight. And you guys think that they're wiretapping you and they're scheming and they're planning on throwing Tucker Carlson in prison for talking to Vladimir Putin? Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, look, man, I interviewed a CIA agent a long time ago, about now nearly 10 years ago. It was a really amazing interview. She told me about honeypot schemes and stuff and how they trick their targets into thinking that they're going to get a sexual relationship. Like, it was an amazing, very candid interview. And she's like, look, this whole thing, and that deep state stuff on the right wing hadn't started yet. She's like, the number one problem with the CIA is they've become bureaucrats. And
okay, yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Become beer.
Man. Wow.
Okay.
We have had a lot of things break pretty recently, like the fact that our intelligence agencies were spying on our allies.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not in the 70s. That was under Obama. That broke under Obama. We know from Snowden, mass data collection. That doesn't sound like incompetent. They're competent where they want to be.
Of course. Obviously, yes.
Where they're incompetent, it's because they don't give a shit. Like your roads, your bridges, oversight of plane manufacturing at Boeing. They don't give a fuck. They're bought out. When it comes to surveillance, it's not like we don't know. All of these stories are out there. Why would you say something like that? That they're not competent enough to do that job anymore. We know they do that job.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of when I was 10 years old, because I grew up in the 90s when it was a period of relative peace, at least here at home. The U.S. wasn't embroiled in any major wars at the time, although we had our adventures here and there. But I remember as a kid, literally a child, thinking that war was kind of a thing of the past. Like, we used to fight wars. We don't fight wars.
The same thing too. Yeah,
we don't fight wars anymore. When we learn about war as a kid in the 90s,
end of history period.
Well, yeah, you grew up at the end of history. So war was something that the grown-ups used to do way back when. And then when 9/11 happened, it's like, oh shit, we're gonna have a war now? This is crazy. This is a whole nother world. This strikes me as that. Oh, yeah, no, the CIA, way back when they used to do all this horrible shit, but not now. No, not now.
She's saying because they failed at a coup? that means they don't do it? I mean, make up your mind, because you're saying they don't do it anymore. But then you just said they tried to do it. Well, they tried to kill Castro too, and they failed back in the day. But you're conceding that they did those things back then. You're also conceding that they did it now. Like, because they weren't successful, they weren't always successful then either.
Exactly. Let's also bring up the fact that of what happened, especially during the Ukrainian coup that happened, I believe, in 2014. I mean, that was a successful coup, and that's why we are successful. And that's why we are where we're at right now. And by extent too, let's look at what happened in Syria too, the ongoing civil war that was happening, because we were funding the terrorists and the other rebel groups that were there, causing further rebellion, causing further civil wars and conflicts. There was what happened to Gaddafi, his entire country, which was once a stable bastion, is now a land in which there's open slave trade happening. So so Anna, what do you mean the government is incompetent? What do you mean the CIA doesn't do bad things anymore? They do bad things. They still do it, but never ask them on how they got associated with El Chapo or the cartels, because that's their long-lasting impact too. People need to talk about how the CIA helped put us into this war on drugs that we're still dealing with to this very day.
So all the TYT clips I have seen in my life, that's probably the most baffling, because obviously we have ideological differences with TYT. Like Anna went full Karen on homelessness, went full Karen regarding the police state. It is what it is. Ideological differences happen, but this shows that they are sweet summer children who don't know how the government works.
No, they don't. They know
how the CIA works.
They think their audience is stupid.
Because you understand the problem with the CIA, and Ron Paul had a famous speech he gave in the late 80s that described this. There are a lot of people who describe this as well. The problem with the CIA is that it's inherently secret, Anna. Everything that we know that the CIA did that was bad, we learn afterwards. The CIA doesn't come out with a press conference and say we about to start Operation Condor and torture people in South America. Do you think they make press conferences, Anna? Is that how you think it works, you fucking child? The CIA is a branch of the government. Every other branch of government, they got hearings, they got overview. You got to track what they're doing. You got to explain what they're doing. But the CIA is an institution where it's inherently accepted what they're doing is secret. Do you guys see the problem there? You guys see how this basic civics problem don't even cross their mind? So that's just starting. There's a reason why I let you guys go first. Because that's just the start of what's wrong with her comment there. The problem with the CIA is what they're doing is inherently secret. So you can't say what they're doing nothing right now, because we're not going to know what they're doing 2 years later.
Exactly.
We know that the CIA was in Ukraine. This is a recent event that Anna Kasparian pretending not a big deal. In a recent event, the CIA helped overthrow a democratically elected government in Ukraine. Did we know that in 2014? No, we did not. We learned that later. That's the point, Anna, you child. You can't say the CIA is not doing anything. We don't know what they're doing until it's revealed. Let me show you some things that they did in recent time that we know of. And what I mean by this, you guys can check and you guys can figure this out on Google. Do you guys know that there's 20,000 active CIA operatives? That's what's on the books. Do you guys think that Anna really think that these CIA employees are doing nothing?
No,
they got 20,000 active CIA motherfuckers doing CIA shit.
Well, they have the Bernie Sanders podcast now. They got to pump that.
The ops are out there, man. Keep your heads on a swivel, folks.
And I'm glad I let you guys go first, because it gave me time to dig this up. Because when Anna said this, I was like, wait, what? Well, you know how she said CIA doesn't go after don't implement coups anymore. They don't directly assassinate leaders no more. Bullshit. Because this is something I saw. You guys see the date. This is July 18, 2022. And this have lived rent-free in my head ever since. So Anna doesn't even understand that the CIA changed tactics. So the CIA realized after Nelson Mandela became a fucking global icon and historical figure that you can't just take these motherfuckers out and imprison them. So actually, I just read it. I don't need me to something. I just read it. Secret CIA report, and this is reported by WikiLeaks. Another reason why Anna Kasparian doesn't know this, because she thinks WikiLeaks is like a Russian asset media operative. Like they hate WikiLeaks at TYT. That's why they don't know this. So WikiLeaks exposed how the CIA had a report that said Nelson Mandela's success showed that it's better to assassinate leaders than imprison them. And in this report, they explain, and this report was made in 2009. They explained that using drone and modern technology to assassinate leaders, to have CIA influence operations to convince the populace of killing their leaders, that's the new CIA tactic. So Anna Kasparian out here pretending the CIA is not doing anything because they're not doing their old tactics is absurd. One last thing I want to say, because I can go all day on this, because I fucking report on the CIA. It's kind of my fucking thing, Nick at Night. I do a CIA segment almost every fucking week. It's kind of my fucking wheelhouse. And so when I was thinking about how I was gonna rebuke this, I'm like, bro, where do I even fucking start? The idea that the CIA is not doing anything. So all the people that claim that Russia is a Trump puppet, like TYT did, Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur pretend that Trump was a puppet to Russia. But you guys know that Trump literally okayed CIA cyber attacks into Russian infrastructure? Look at this report. CIA conducted cyber attacks on Iran, Russia, after secret Trump order in 2018. That's kind of weird for a Putin puppet to do, isn't it, Cenk?
Mm-hmm.
So isn't it weird that they say the CIA does nothing? It's almost actually I just came with a revelation. I just made a breakthrough. Usually I see it live. Anna, the reason, and I just had a breakthrough. Anna really does believe, and this is my take. This is my personal take. I did not realize this. Anna really believes what she says. When she says that the CIA is no longer doing bad stuff, and I did not realize this. You know how they hate Russia? They have Russia derangement syndrome at TYT. So when they see that the CIA is launching cyber attacks into Russia, they view that as a good thing. You know how they have Putin derangement syndrome? When they see that the CIA created coups in Ukraine, maybe she viewed that as a good thing. Maybe that I don't know. Keaton, you want to chime in?
Well, sorry, yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but I noticed that video that the New York Times put out. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I think, Nick, I'm pretty sure you tweeted out the headline. Actually, the deep state is pretty awesome, or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, let me show you guys. That's
yeah. So that's kind of what you're saying. Like, yeah, I mean, yes, they just overtly like these agencies now. That was their core critique of Trump, is that he wanted to undermine them.
Now to that point, look at this headline. And Russ, I'll pass right to you. I'll pass right to you. But look at this headline. Because there's another one I was going to bring. I literally just searched CIA in my Twitter handle. I talk about the show all the time. The CIA sued over alleged spying on lawyers, journalists who met Assange. And the reason why I just came up with this revelation that they like the CIA, that they think that all the bad things we see the CIA do, anything as a positive. Because TYT hates Julian Assange. So they're like, nigga, yeah, they're spying on Assange, nigga, they cyber attacking Russia, they cooling Ukraine. This is great. But sorry, Russ, go ahead, Russell. I'll let you continue.
Okay, so one of the most bizarre spectacles for me at the Trump years was the elevation of John Brennan, who belongs in fucking prison. The CIA doesn't just do ops overseas; they do ops on our own government.
Yeah.
Feinstein took to the Senate floor to make a very serious allegation against the CIA. She said that as Senate Intelligence Committee staffers worked on a report about the CIA's torture programs, agency officials improperly accessed the computers they were using. They searched to see what the Senate staffers had found and revoked their access to certain documents. Brennan denied it completely. Now, he denied this before Congress, which is a crime. He perjured himself before Congress. But if you remember, he was one of the most celebrated anti-Trump #resistance figures of the Trump years, op-eds in the New York Times about defense of freedom and democracy. This is all very recent history. So how's Anna going out there saying, no, these guys, they're Keystone cops. They don't know how to do anything.
What it is a signal to get more Katzenberg cash or somebody equivalent to that, because they're realizing that their network is tanking in views. No one is observing TYT as a legitimate source. And even Cenk Uygur's meltdown interview with Briahna Joy Gray, I know we just skipped that subject, but here's the thing. That aftermath or what he said in that interview, he publicly said right there with Briahna Joy Gray that the people who he helped elect get into office, AOC, Ilhan Omar, the whole Justice Democrat squad, they don't respect him anymore by even going on his show. They used him and they ditched him. He had 2 failed campaigns running for Congress and then a joke of a campaign running for president. Why they would ever choose to greenlight that little segment and say that the CIA isn't a threat or the government's not that bad, it's because they want to signal to some high-end liberal donor, somebody to give them some money so that their show remains relevant.
And Cenk, this is something else he said that was absurd. He said, I remember I had a great guest from the CIA. For one, immediate red flag there. He had a great guest. I interviewed some guy from the CIA, and he was very candid about the things the CIA did good, bad in the past, but he assured me that they're not doing it anymore. Oh, how convenient! How convenient and how self-serving that this motherfucker gonna come on your show like, yeah, we're gonna admit all the bad things we did before, but I promise you we're not doing it anymore. It's obviously an agenda. That agenda that CIA operative had when he came on your show, Cenk, was to tell you a small sliver of truth, just so to whitewash what they're currently doing right now. And Cenk, like a fucking moron, bought it. He really believed them. Like, oh yeah, thank you for confessing to these crimes. I'm sure you guys are not doing anything else anymore.
Not once, not ever would a secret agent, an FBI or CIA agent would lie to a person. I mean, come on, that's not their profession. Not once, not ever. What? They lie? I am shocked.
And Cenk is like, he ex-CIA. He's not gonna lie. Now, bro, once someone is CIA, they CIA for life, bro. That's
their job. The most craziest, the most horrendous secrets and corruption. You think they're gonna tell you that and then be like, okay, bro, your time's up. Go ahead and go back to regular life. That's not how it goes. That's absolutely not how it goes. But any final words on this, and we're gonna move on. Let's read some more super chats, and we can get to the final segment.
I would like to add in this segment. If there's ever a point in time when you hear someone defending the CIA and its actions and what it's contributed to the world, look at those people with suspicion. Anyone that's going to tell you that there are no problems or dangers with said institutions that help create not only the war on drugs, but political instability in Central and South America, on the continent of Africa, and the Middle East, view that person with suspicion. Because right now, the reason why things are as bad as they are is because of our neoliberal politicians and the secret intelligence agencies and the corrupt politicians and corporations that have continued these ongoing wars. The reason why things are so bleak is because of the long-term legacy damage that these institutions are doing. But it's a-okay because Anna and Fat Tony are on their little fantastic network signaling to a donor saying, hey, we'll toe the line and make sure that people are dumb enough to run the system but stupid enough never to ask a question why. That action by TYT right there is, again, why they are falling out in line, why they are no longer relevant amongst progressives, and why no one should take them seriously. So TYT, you're not serious people.
I'm not going to play this video, but this comes to the conclusion I made earlier. TYT is saying this because they love what the CIA did. So I was just curious, because I don't follow TYT at all. I legitimately don't know what they report on. So I typed in Alexei Navalny and Cenk, and obviously this was the first thing I found. Alexei Navalny's funeral draws thousands.
Oh, God.
So
they bought into the establishment talking point too.
CJ, what you want to add? But this is my conclusion.
Go ahead,
After seeing this, at first I was assuming that they were sweet summer children that didn't know what the CIA did, or they were saying stuff because they were saying what Democrats want them to say. But seeing this, because Alexei Navalny is CIA propped up, they legitimately like what the CIA has done. That's why I checked. I was like, and I checked it just so I'm not slandering him. I'm like, maybe he was critical of this white supremacist CIA motherfucker. Nope. Apparently not. I saw a few more of the videos. There's another one that said Alexei Navalny murdered in Russia. So The NATO left, the CIA left, the TYT left. When we say the pro-CIA left, we are not bullshitting you guys. But anyway, let's move on to Super Chats. I'm not playing the video. That's another example.
Let's read a couple and then we'll get to the last segment here.
And also, doesn't Alexei Navalny dispute what the fuck you were just saying? Now think about it, because Alexei Navalny was literally coerced by the CIA and MI6 to start a color revolution in Russia. You know that thing that's highly illegal in every country that ever existed ever? But I thought they didn't do that no more, though, Anna. They know who Alexei Navalny is, so they surely know that they do that. Anyway, let's continue. I'll read from the bottom up. I think we got one more segment, so I'll read all super chats and I'll read whatever come in after the next segment. So big shout out to Landrew as well.
Oh, there you go.
We don't have your sound drop over here, Landrew.
Yeah, it's not our house, so we don't have the sound drop for you. But Russell,
our bad. We gotta get some sound, Nick. We gotta get some sound over here, Nick. Yeah, that's the next thing.
We got well. Now I know Nick is a geek, man. You know original Star Trek.
See, I'm not a Star Trek guy. Never been.
No, that's Star Trek. Sabby.
Hey. The Cisco's the captain. I don't want to hear any other debate about it.
Oh yeah, Kit's that kind of geek. All right, so you know the Will of Landrew episode on the original series.
The original. I'm more of a Deep Space Nine fan. The original.
I submit to the Will of Landrew. No. We got a sound drop from that for him.
Yeah. Okay.
Look at Dude Distance paving the way, teaching us how to do this goddamn thing. We need more physical goddamn comedy.
Yeah, you need more physical.
but by the way, Jenny Lynn is saying Star Trek is greater than Star Wars. Incorrect. The Warhammer 40K is superior. So there.
It's apples and oranges.
There you go.
40K.
Thanks for $100, Landrew. Thank you for platforming truth that brings justice for the working people. Vote no on genocide, Joe. Well said. Big shout out to Landrew.
Yes.
With a generous super chat. Then for $5, ARJ. Isn't the CIA on the verge of getting Julian Assange extradited? Remember, TYT thinks that's a good thing. They hate Julian Assange. And I'll put an asterisk. I'll put an asterisk on my statement because I don't know what they said recently. Because once again, I don't follow TYT. But I remember an era where they smeared Julian Assange. Anna and Cenk was accusing them of helping Trump. So I would say,
because they're helping Trump now. I can't believe
what did he say? Now I can't believe anything you said.
Yeah. So I would add a caveat that I don't know what they say about him recently, but I don't follow their work because they smeared Julian Assange. So when we see all the negative stuff that the CIA does, well, we're like, what? How can you possibly say that? It's because they approve of it. Period.
Well, like all the libs. That has been one of the most bizarre spectacles of modern politics, watching people who even consider themselves left embrace the intelligence services. Like that was just always a core part of being left. Even if you were liberal left, that you were deeply suspicious of the FBI and the CIA. That was just a given. It's just been incredible seeing them turn into the McCarthyite flag wavers.
So it's only a 1 minute clip. I just want to show you guys this because we talk about TYT. One of the things that has been living rent free in my head, and one of the things like anyone who even follows TYT, you're a counter-revolutionary and you are harmful to this movement to even follow these people. Because anyway, I don't want to preface it because I don't want to take too much longer. But this is TYT smearing Julian Assange. Once again, I don't make shit up. I will show you guys receipts on anything I say. So here it is.
Well, obviously, it's hard to tell who's telling the truth here. But lately, I have to confess that WikiLeaks has not had an astounding record. The way that Assange seems to be backing Donald Trump over and over and over again, it makes me very seriously question Assange's efforts to actually be a journalist and not to be a partisan. And I get it. I get why he hates the Democrats. They're trying to put him in prison. Okay.
Right.
But at the same time,
so are Republicans. Let's be clear about that.
And now the Republicans are too, and they have been in the past. But it seems like Assange has picked a side. And
no, he didn't.
And look, it makes me question his reporting. And so, and so that's the situation we're in now.
Yeah.
So now is he just leaking things that he gets, and no matter what? In which case, I would respect that. Or is he selectively leaking based on his political motives? Now that suspicion is out there and it's real and it's possible, well, now I'm concerned that it can't be trusted.
If Cenk Uygur went through a fraction of what Julian Assange was going through in the first minute, he'd be screaming, asking for a Snickers bar. Fat bastard out there, clumsy, saying like, "Oh no, he's out there betraying everybody. He's out there helping out Trump. He picked a side." No, the fuck he did not. Did he ever say that? No,
guys, of course.
Right? Yeah.
He'd be crying like a little boy.
Yeah. But by the way, TYT has never broken the story. Name me one story that TYT ever broke. Don't worry, I'll wait. And WikiLeaks never had to make a public retraction ever.
Right.
By the way.
Right.
Well, okay, I could be wrong about this. But back during that little phase where they were flirting with actually having investigative reporting.
Oh yeah, they're 4 horsemen. Yeah.
Didn't they break the shit with Pete Buttigieg and his collusion to get rid of the police chief in South Bend?
Did they? I have no idea about that.
I have no idea about that. I remember those articles, and I seem to remember those being their reporter that broke it. In fact, it might have been Jordan. It might have been Jordan.
Wait. If it's Pete Buttigieg, I can believe that. I can believe that.
Maybe it was 2019.
Not
yeah. It could have been when Jordan was probably still with them. But remember, this was like when did they really start promoting that 4 horsemen? Like 2019, because that's the same time when Flint, Michigan was starting to be broken up too, or something like that. Sean King, Michael Tracy, Nomiki Konst, Jordan Sheridan. They raised $2 million, and we never saw anything from it.
Yeah. Yes.
That's wonderful.
Exactly.
All right. You can read a couple more, Nick, and then
we have I have 4 more super chats, and we can and I think we caught up. Thank for $2. Democracy dies in secrecy. That's our media for you. Big shout out to Tusker for $20. Appreciate the super chats and super stickers, my friends. TYT and the CIA are good actors now. Oh my God, man. I fucking despise liberalism so much, man. This is the end result of liberalism. You guys realize that, right? Like,
yes.
I view politics as a science. That what Marxism teaches, view everything as a science. What we see and Russell brought this up and King brought this up, how it's crazy how liberals are pro-CIA, pro-police state, pro-imperialism. That will always was going to be the end result of liberalism. Anyway, let's move on. That's the one. Thank for 199 Sam. Don't want to go on the right. I'm about to, but I held myself back. I know we got one more segment when we went to. The CIA and FBI headquarters are still named after ghouls. Well said.
What's the Hoover building? What is it for the CIA?
Yeah, I have no idea what the buildings are called. Thank for 499.
That's one I don't know.
Sam. I think this last one. I'll pass to you, CJ. Then for 499, think of the vast knowledge of books already written, and then buying a book by Jake Bernie.
Man. That's nice.
Can you imagine? Fuck, people are so weird, man. Or Ryan Grimm, bro. Imagine writing a book about AOC and the squad and the hopes for a political revolution in the year, what was it, 2022, 2023 when you released that?
Yeah, end of the year,
yeah.
right?
That was this last holiday. That was December 2023. Yeah.
And people still treat him like a serious person. Like, guys, it's easy to get the Palestinian issue right, man. Just because Ryan Grimm is getting that issue right don't mean he's a good faith person. Like, for you to write a book called The Squad and the Hope for the Political Revolution right now, that's so crazy to do. Anyway, last part super set. Also, Q Anthony Minute, Holly, and Haas show. Bro, that's gonna be that's 3 powerful ass comments on the show. That will be powerful. I think we're gonna do it here soon. We gotta have Q back on talk about Haiti. I think next Tuesday. But anyway, if you haven't seen it, make sure you gotta check out Nick and I yesterday. Me and Q, it was a great time. We pretty much debunked the talk points about Haiti. Q did a great history lesson because Q's a historian, and he specializes in the history of the global South in Africa specifically. So he explained the history of the West, exploiting African resources. It was very illuminating. Q was one of those guests that you have on, and you like, hey Q, what's your opinion on this? Go, and this motherfucker would send you to school. He's so slept on. It's so crazy to me, like how slept on he is as a leftist thinker. And he would get mad at me for saying, he's like, don't fucking call me a leftist. But you know what I mean? he hates that fucking term. And he explained why on our show yesterday anyway. But anyway, CJ, that's my plug. My shameless plug.
Yeah.
CJ, go ahead. I'll pass to you for our last segment.
All right. Just to finish out the announcements, make sure you check out our website. It's here. You can see about us, chapters, our library. Rome was doing the floor. He's in the library today working on the floor. He actually laid down some more floor. I think he said in the kitchen part of the library.
Very good.
So
very good.
If you want to go on Twitter, you can check out the pictures. They're there, and we're gonna put them on our website soon. They're not there yet, but also summits. And then this last one on the right is RBN merchandise. When you click RBN merchandise, it takes you to our store where you can buy what you see Nick have it on right now. That's actually our #1 item that we sell, which is our regular RBN logo stuff. So you can see Nick, the shirt, but you can get it on a mug.
Beautiful.
This unserious, Nick, we've been selling this unserious mug. People didn't know you can get unserious on the mug too. So we've been selling the unserious mug a lot.
I object
of course,
to this
the logo.
I gotta get feedback. I object. That mug need to say deeply unserious.
We gotta update it. We gotta
update
update
do a Mal did nothing wrong on a mug.
Yeah, we need Mal to
I mean,
did
that
nothing
would
wrong.
be your
Aaron,
best
if you're
seller.
watching this.
Yeah. Like
Did
the
you,
more
did-
aggressive the coffee mug, the better, because it's just kind of funny to be like sipping a hot drink, from a fucking really hardcore message on the mug.
Nick,
I will get that shit immediately too. If we make it, I will get that shit immediately.
Did we show it to you when I was out in London? The guy who had the RBN shirt on.
Oh yeah, we saw the video. I think
Yeah, you're going international now.
Yeah, you saw that.
Yeah, I think we played it as an opening one time. So that was great to see international. So also abolish the police mug. We also got ACAB. I like this one. Vote blue, no matter who, is for morons. We got that one. We got the lesser of two evils, and this is our mug for our show. This show right here, Post-Duopoly voter mug. So
Beautiful.
that's like for our show. And then you can get everything on tote bags, the same logos on sweaters. You see the one Nick has right now. You can also get it. Let me click on this year. You can get it in red. I think you got the red one, right, Nick? I think you got the red one. So I'll probably get the green one just so we can show both of them.
Well, imagine on the live show in Chicago, the DNC convention, we got twin RBN hoodies, different colors, looking gay as hell.
Man, that would be dope.
The matching logos.
All right, let's get into our.
I'm actually
go ahead
looking
if you're going to say
forward-
something before we get
yeah,
started.
real quick. I'm actually really looking forward to the DNC convention in Chicago because we have a TV show on Can TV, and I actually had a meeting with one of the people there who run. It's a public access show, but apparently our evening show on Saturday at 10 p.m. is very popular. So it's a chance for you guys to get introduced to more of the Chicago audience. So I'm really looking forward to having Due Dissidents and RBN here in the city. I told people that an Avengers team was being set up, and people didn't believe me. They thought I was lying. They will now.
Right.
So this last segment is titled "A Presidential Election in a Collapsing Empire." So we're gonna touch upon a couple of different things. We got maybe four maybe receipts, Article 2, to just kind of cover, and they're all surrounding this larger topic of a presidential election in a collapsing empire. In it, and this is what I have written down. In a collapsing empire, we have reached the climax of the lesser of two evil policy. And I've heard Nick say this all the time. If our choices are genocide A or genocide red or genocide blue, do we understand we have reached the end point, the end of the story, the last act of the lesser of two evil sort of policy? Like there's literally no further you can go than these two. Maybe nuclear war. Maybe that could be the next thing. So let's start with the state of where the election is right now, meaning polls. So let's spend 3 minutes with this CNN clip that I think they put out yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, 2 days ago. So is breaking down the numbers. So let's watch that. And then we'll comment and move on to the next receipt here.
To campaign in key swing states out there. Why? Because he needs to. With me now, CNN senior data reporter Harry Yenton. When I say he needs to, Harry, what's changed?
Yeah, and I need to share this information with you. All right, let's take a look here. All right, this is the Biden versus Trump matchup. Remember, Biden barely won Arizona back in 2020, won it by well less than a percentage point, won Nevada by a little bit more than 2 percentage points. Look now where we are in the 2024 polling. Joe Biden's numbers, to quote Tony Blair, are weak, weak, weak. Donald Trump up in the polling average in Arizona by 5, up in Nevada by 5 percentage points. If these polls hold, Donald Trump would be the first Republican presidential candidate to carry the silver state since 2004 when George W. Bush carried it.
So they keep talking in terms of, you watch corporate media, and I know we watch it, so you guys don't have to if you watch, but if you happen to get a glimpse, it's all Trump. And if you were to listen to the broadcast, you would think Trump is losing by 30, 40 points against Joe Biden, and he's not. Now, it was recently what Joe Biden has been doing, fellas. You all know he's been out. What is he talking about? Investing in like Intel. He's specifically marketing things for these two states, which you've been hearing the last couple of days, because he's trying to go after the Hispanic vote. The Hispanic vote is another sort of coalition group. The Hispanic vote is also leaving him at a higher rate. Nick, I don't know if you know this, at a higher rate even than male blacks. Hispanics are leaving the Democratic Party. Now, if Joe Biden and the Democrats are not able to win Arizona and Nevada, and right now it's looking like they're not going to win those, they have to win Michigan and run the table on a bunch of other things. He's going to talk about it in a second. Let's let it play, and then we'll get your comments.
What appears to have changed inside some of these numbers that you're looking at?
Yeah, what is a key group that seems to have changed? How about Hispanic voters, right? A core part of the Democratic constituency. Normally, back in 2020, Joe Biden carried Hispanic voters in Arizona by 24 points. He carried them in Nevada by 26 points. Look now, Joe Biden still leads, but these margins have shrunk significantly. Been cut by more than half in Arizona, 11 points. Been cut by a third of where the lead was back in 2020. It's just an 8-point advantage for Joe Biden. And this is what we have seen as well nationally. Joe Biden's polling numbers among blacks and Hispanics have dropped significantly. And that is a big reason why in these two states, Arizona and Nevada, his poll numbers have become significantly worse.
Well, how big of a reason? Because you talk about these two states and you're talking about a pretty significant share of the electorate.
Yeah, if you want to find swing states where Hispanics are going to make a major difference in this election, you can't find two better swing states than Arizona and Nevada. In Nevada, among likely voters, they make up 23% of the electorate. In Arizona, 20%. None of the other swing states, those 6 closest states that Biden won in 2020 by less than 3 percentage points, do they come anywhere close? Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin make up less than 10% of the vote. So that drop that you've seen with Biden among Hispanic voters, if they're going to be felt anywhere, it's going to be in Nevada and Arizona. And as those earlier slides showed, he's certainly feeling it right now.
So as you noted, Nevada has become part of the Democratic map in general to the White House. Arizona, a relative newcomer. If President Biden were to lose both Nevada and Arizona this time around, what do you need to do?
Yeah, he would basically need to run the table, John. So if Biden loses Arizona and Nevada, he likely must win at least 3 of these 4. Again, those 6 closest swing states, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Now, Biden could do it if he won Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. He barely gets to 270. Here's the issue right now. Biden seems to be trailing not just in Georgia, but in Michigan as well. And if he loses these 2, John, I can't find a map that would work for him. So it's simple math at this point. Biden's behind in Arizona. He's behind in Nevada. He's behind in Georgia. He's behind in Michigan. And if that map holds, ball game over most likely.
Ball game over. Go ahead, gentlemen. I heard you laughing. If you wanted to chime in, that's dire. That is that is dire. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, okay, I'll go ahead and shoot off first. Well, first of all, again, Biden is losing his key support, and I just can't help but think of that old Saturday Night Live skit when Dave Chappelle was hosting SNL, and this was the aftermath of the 2016 election, and there was that scene where the white people were saying, "Here's to Latinos," and then all of a sudden the Latinos didn't show up to vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and now there's this whole idea, this assumption that the same same voter coalition that formed in 2020 was still going to, or still is possibly deemed as loyal to the Democrats in 2024. Democrats are losing black voters, they're losing Latino voters, they're losing women voters, they're losing young people. The coalition that was around in 2020 was only held together because Vote Blue, no matter who, bullied people and threatened people and used all their power to make people feel guilty for not supporting Biden. And now we're seeing what a Biden presidency looks like. We're seeing economic instability, political instability, both domestically and internationally. And so what is the incentive for people to support Biden? He's losing his voter base and no one's enthusiastic. So why are we surprised by this? I said that this was going to happen in 2020 and the aftermath of the election, that Biden and the Democrats were not going to follow through, and that the progressive Democrats were going to be nothing but nutless cucks who were going to support and carry water for Biden and try and push people in. Why do you think Bernie's doing his podcast? This is all a desperate attempt, and everyone sees it. It's there's numerous canaries in the coal mine, and the Democrats are now waking up to the fact.
Well, there was never a Biden Democrat. He never really had a coalition. He had people who were scared shitless of how Donald Trump was handling the pandemic. And that was enough to really squeak him through. What are you talking about? 20,000 votes across a few swing states?
I think it was 40,000 across a few states. Yeah, you had about 12,000 in Arizona. What was it? About the same in Georgia. And then there was one other state that he barely eked out. Pennsylvania was a little bit more, but not much.
He never had a coalition. Even now, if you look at, as we're getting into election season, the libs are out there with their dumb Trump bad shit. Very few of them are out there with a go Biden shit. All they can talk about is how bad Trump is. Even blue, no matter who people, can't really make a positive case for Biden. They never could. They didn't even back in 2020. They really didn't talk about him. They just talked about Trump. And they're doing that again this time, all the more so because, God, how dumb do you have to be to watch that State of the Union and go, yeah, Dark Brandon is back, baby. You know, there are a few people like that, but it's not a lot of people, man. It's not a lot of people.
It's very few when you count the people who aren't paid to pretend like he did well. Like it's very few when you do that. It's literally maybe just the cowbell left. But go ahead, Nick. You were going to.
I'm so confused. Are you guys telling me that they'll chance of 4 more years every time an anti-genocide protester call out Biden? Are you guys telling me that's not organic grassroots enthusiasm for Biden? You guys are blowing my mind.
Look, man, I know a few people in the theater, and I gotta say, man, what's left of the theater community, that's like the fucking liberal scum of the earth. That is like, that is like the fucking dingleberry at the bottom of the liberal class ass cheek. So where I've seen, that was a great State of the Union. That's where I've seen that come from.
Oh man, Russell, dude, man. I got to get you a shot of whiskey when you come here to Chicago. You poor person, man. I'm so sorry, bro.
So we see the numbers with Joe Biden, and there's an array. There's a lot of reasons why his numbers will be this low, but the reason that has been a sustained reason, of course, has been the economy. Rent is too damn high, and groceries is too damn high. So it's been on the economy. But one of the things that's a very huge sticking point is the genocide that's happening in Palestine. So with the numbers that we see with Joe Biden, for me, what the nail biter is for me is, what are these uncommitted people going to do? What are these people who are right now saying they're in solidarity with Palestine? They're saying that right now. What is they going to say when it's time to pay up? When it's the real deal? And this article right here kind of talks about it. This article is from Socialist Alternatives, Shama Sawant's organization. I took a couple of snippets out. I'm curious to get you guys' reaction to their analysis, and it's because it's very similar to RBN's analysis, and I would beg to even say Heartland's Media and Due Dissidence. But let me read a little bit. voting uncommitted is an important vehicle to register public anger at Biden's policies, but it can only have a lasting impact if the campaign is in opposition to Biden is taken up, though, or it should say through the election, general election itself. Working people are being given a terrible choice between a dangerous reactionary and a liberal imperialist who has done nothing to defend the rights of workers and oppressed people while while dragging the country deeper into a global imperialist conflict. We can no longer accept these as our only options. And a member of the Abandoned Biden National Coalition, now understand, the Abandoned Biden Coalition, those the real deal. From the jump, they were like, no, we're not supporting him in November. Uncommitted is the diet version, the light version, if you will, of that movement. But Abandoned Biden movement says this, and then I'll pass it to you guys for any comment. It says, Biden, that is, can't do anything for us to support him. No one can tolerate a policy of death that lasts this long. People have to be held accountable. Basically saying it doesn't matter what he does good at this point. You got to pay for the 100,000 bodies. You got to pay for that, and that's what we're going to be doing in November. But what say any of you about this article from Socialist website and just the general idea of what is the value of voting uncommitted in the primary without doing it in November? Like, what is the value of that? And can you really say you're in solidarity with Palestinians when your vote is in solidarity with them when it doesn't matter?
Obviously you have to be willing to, vote uncommitted in November. Otherwise, it's just it's a virtue signal. And, CJ, you put it very well on a stream month back or so. You said it's almost like they're walking people through a sort of emotional management process to get them to be able to justify a vote for Biden in November. Well, I told him how angry I was in the primary, so that makes it okay for me to vote for him now. I think there's something to that. I think that's a really good observation. But obviously, no, you have to abstain in November. Now, as for these uncommitted votes, it's a little difficult to sort of parse the two factions of the uncommitted, because there is the Abandoned Biden, which started with these Arab and Muslim leaders organizing a boycott campaign, not just in Michigan, that's where it started, but they're organizing it throughout all of the sort of swing states. They voted uncommitted, just like the Social Democrats, if you will, the people following Michael Moore's lead, Rashida Tlaib's lead, like they all voted uncommitted. So it's a little difficult to parse, okay, how many of those are actually uncommitted in November versus how many were just doing that in the primary. So we'll have to see how the numbers shake out ultimately. But if the polling is any indication, I think quite a few, if not a vast majority, of those who voted uncommitted in the primary will stay uncommitted in November, because if that weren't true, there's no way Biden would be losing Michigan by an average of about 5 points, which he is. Like if this was just about making a statement in the primary for most of these uncommitted voters, you'd be running even. You wouldn't be losing by 5.
Two things I'd like to add in here. First of all, I want to give a shout out to one of our audience members, Bad Cookies. He wrote this. This is all misdirection, CJ. Voting uncommitted lets the Democrats know how many votes they can count on in November, because come November, the desperation is going to seep in. And also, number two, to any uncommitted voters, what you did, okay, I will tip my hat to you and say, That was very courageous. Well done. But follow through is key, because articles right now coming out from the Washington Post and many other news sources that Biden knew about the civilian targets and civilians dying in Gaza way back in October. So if you truly do believe in being uncommitted, and if you truly are upset with Joe Biden, you will either option A, vote independent or third party, or not vote at all. Because if you vote for the two-party system, you're still contributing to the genocide that's taking place in Gaza. So uncommitted, I could see the Democrats bullying you. I could see them threatening you. I could see them trying to appease you. Just remember, Joe Biden knew of the civilian casualties early on in October of 2023. So if you truly do believe in your message, be goddamn consistent and don't waste my time.
The only reason I think when you're talking about the Arab community, when you're talking about the Muslim community, they will probably follow through. It's very personal for obvious reasons. The only thing that could make a difference, although I don't think it will, they understand who Trump is. Trump is coming out, and there's an opening there for him to moderate his position and pick up those voters for real, rather than to just have them vote uncommitted. But he's out ranting yesterday or the day before. I think Jews who support Democrats hate Israel, they hate their religion. He's not any better. But they seem to understand that. Whenever they're asked that question, they're like, yeah, they're actually making the Bernie or bust argument, right? But following through on it. Like, well, hey, if they never face consequences, why would they change their behavior? At some point, you have to let the other guys win in order to break the people who are in charge of your theoretical team. Now, do I think that's going to transform the Democratic Party? Probably not. But it will destroy a lot of their leadership class, which maybe creates some room for movements to have some impact. But I mean, overall, it goes beyond the Palestine issue. The country sucks. I mean, it just sucks for too many people. Is it all Joe Biden's fault? It's hard to say. I mean, when you're talking about things like this kind of inflation coming out of an apocalyptic scenario, if Trump had been president, would we not have had the inflation? I don't know. You can't say that. But in the end, you're the president. You're going to get blamed for it, man. That's it. That's the way that goes. And
I mean, you take the blame and you take the kudos. But go ahead.
Well, that's it. If people can't pay their rent, if they're going to, when they use a gallon of milk as an inflation measure, I use bacon, egg, and cheese. Okay, bacon, egg, and cheese was $3.50 in Harlem before the pandemic. It's $6 to $6.50 now. That's a lot of fucking money for people, and that applies across the board. We were talking about this on the show last night. You go get McDonald's, it's $18. The CEO of McDonald's said people making under $45,000 a year have stopped going to McDonald's. Freaking McDonald's. Now, would it have been like that anyway with Trump? Maybe. I'd say there's a better than even chance. But you're the president now, man, and this is what people are experiencing. On top of that, Ukraine, which I would say I would give that point Trump when he says this wouldn't have happened if I had been president. I would agree with that, and I think a lot of people believe that. When everyone in the country, or a large portion of the country, just has the sense, the world is on fire now, and it was moderately better with the last guy, they're going to vote for the last guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Nick.
Go ahead, Nick.
I put this up temporarily. I'll put what you had up right back, CJ. But I want to add this in, since we're talking about like the election chances. It's been very hilarious watching Morning Joe the last week or two, last few weeks, because they're still in denial about what's about to happen. I told you I'm not good at predicting electoral politics. Who is, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty confident Biden's gonna lose.
Yeah.
Gaza completely tainted. And then they're like all these mainstream corporate media heads are like, man, Trump is being bankrupt, Trump campaign in shambles. You You are in straight up denial about what's about to happen, and that's gonna make it even more hilarious. But there are the smartest among the establishment that sees what we see coming, CJ. And I'm thinking about making a hotspot video on this tomorrow. I'm not really sure. I got a hotspot video I'm gonna do tomorrow. You guys know I gotta release another banger. But this is Dem Donor warning that Biden's support for Israel during the war on Gaza may hand Trump the White House. And you have more than 100, and I don't have to read the article, I'll just very brief, but more than 100 Democratic donors and activists on Monday warned that the United States President Joe Biden unconditional support for Israel's catastrophic war in Gaza, the genocide, is increasing the chances that former President Donald Trump will win next year's election. You don't fucking say. And I'm very sure that they're screwed. And this goes to your point about the Democratic coalition is fracturing. And that's why Democrats made a Hail Mary play. I'll put your receipt back up, CJ. That's why they made this Hail Mary play where they were trying to beat Trump using legal lawfare. And to the point where you had Rachel Maddow came out and said, "Oh fuck, man, we gotta beat Trump at the ballot box now."
Yeah,
because they're
he's mad.
Fuck, God damn it! Because their plan was always to support Israel during this genocide. Their plan was always to promote war with China, to fund proxy war in Ukraine, pretty much do anything that everyone on the left hate, and then rely on the legal system to take Trump out, and then Nikki Haley will be the only candidate left, and now you got two neocons that you're going up against. Good luck.
Yeah, they don't mind Nikki Haley; she's fine for them.
And that's why you see headlines now, like it's crazy. They're not even hiding it. Like you can look at MSNBC's YouTube channel. I was looking when I was doing my research for a segment for Nick at Night Tomorrow, and all the segments like how Trump legal bill is going to tank his campaign. And they talking about how they won't have money to spend on election stuff that they usually would spend on. They won't be able to staff up. The fact that Trump won't be able to do tours, they won't be able to hold rallies, and they talk about they openly bragging about like, look how we hampered the Trump campaign. It's clear that always was the strategy. The strategy was always to take him out using the legal system because they knew that they're fucked with the genocide. And then you have Nikki Haley, who sounds as nuts as any presidential candidate ever. So there's a reason why they had Nikki Haley. I'll wrap it up, Russ. I apologize for going long. But there's a reason why you hear Nikki Haley.
I was quoting Nikki Haley. I wasn't telling you to finish.
Yeah. To that quote, though, there's a reason why they had Nikki Haley come out and say, finish them. There's a reason why Nikki Haley come out and say all these crazy things about Gaza, because the plan was to take out Trump, and then also you got Nikki Haley as the alternative who've been saying all this crazy shit. You know what I mean? That was the plan. That plan isn't working. That's why they had a meltdown when the Supreme Court ruled that Trump couldn't be taken off the ballot, because that was their only plan. And there was a chance that it could have worked. But now that it's not working, I'm like, bro, they're fucked. And that's why they had to resort to that lawfare. And that's why the Biden administration haven't even tried to shift their policy in Gaza, because their plan was always to take out their opposition at the ballot. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, so great points by all of you added to this. And just to slightly bring it back, or lightly bring it back to the uncommitted vote doesn't matter unless you are uncommitted, unless you move from uncommitted to abandoned in November. It does not make a difference. And then that leads me to this question. Why would you change your vote from uncommitted and then vote for Joe Biden? What has he done to make you say, oh, I hated you in the primary when you were committing a genocide? Now he did what? What did he do? So why would we give somebody like Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt if you are a person who's uncommitted and you're on the fence? Why would you give somebody who did 100 secret sales to Israel behind everybody's back under a certain threshold so it didn't have to be public? And then what you see on the screen, why would you support somebody who knew that Israel was bombing civilian targets all the way back in October, but now they want to build a maritime humanitarian port? Why would you do that? And I'm going to read a little bit of this article.
You guys realize that.
Go ahead, Nick. While I bring that
up,
look,
just real quick. You guys realize, and they are trying to do with the Trump derangement shit already to get people to vote for Biden. Biden cutting UNRWA aid, using torture obtained confessions, is way worse than anything Trump has done. I want to be challenged on that. Biden facilitating this famine in Gaza, which their own administration said that every single person in Gaza is now possibly suffering from famine. For you to cut UNRWA aid with unconfirmed reports, confessions that come from torture, name something more devious a president has done in the last 10 years other than that. That's why Trump derangement syndrome will never work again. And last quick thought, I'll pass to you, CJ. If you're willing to vote for Joe Biden after his acts, after cutting UNRWA, after providing cover for the Al-Shifa hospital raid, after providing 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs, after providing diplomatic cover for Israel, it's time for you to stop pretending you're activists. Just admit that you're a loyal, diehard Democrat, and that's the only thing you care about is helping Democrats get elected. If you're one of the Muslims and you vote for Biden, admit that you care more about the Democratic Party than you care about your community. And yes, I will tell that to a black person to their face too. Because if genocide is not the red line, there is no red line.
Right.
Because this is the question I used to ask these people. Because remember, I had a hard divorce, debated false. I had all these hardcore conversations with these people. Well, I will list all the stuff that Biden has done. And I will tell these people, if these are not red flags, then just admit you're a Democrat. Just admit that's the things he did before he was president. So if you completely throw away your dignity and vote for a guy who committed a genocide, then you might as well throw all your activism away. You might as well quit being an activist and just admit that you're a Democrat and you're willing to support Democrats no matter what. CJ, go ahead. That's my last rant tonight. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I do want to read this by Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. You've seen him on the network before. It's been a while. Maybe I'll bring him back on. But this is him, his reporting on the Washington Post article. You know, we're ad block, so that's why I'm reading it this way. Biden administration officials knew back in October that Israel was bombing buildings in Gaza without having, quote, solid intelligence that they were military targets and continue to provide full support for the Israeli military operation. So basically, they had no idea what they were doing, and the United States was like, here, you want some more guns and ammunition? That's basically what happened. And this is from the Washington Post reporting on Monday. The report said that a briefing took place at the White House on October 27th, 20 days after the military action by Hamas, 3 weeks into the brutal Israeli military campaign. Due to the sheer destruction in Gaza, it was clear Israel was bombing the Strip indiscriminately. And a report from Plus 972, that's the name of a magazine, Plus 972 magazine, published in November, revealed Israel was actually intentionally hitting civilian targets, period. Like we all across the world didn't know that already. But I'll continue before I get comment from you guys. Israeli intelligence sources told Plus 972 that Israel targeted what it called power targets, which included civilian infrastructure such as high-rise apartment buildings, banks, universities, and other public buildings. The sources said that the Israeli military would also approve strikes that killed large numbers of civilians in an attempt to target only one Hamas member. Biden officials, go ahead if you want to chime in.
No, continue. Go ahead, CJ. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, Biden officials also acknowledged during the October 27th meeting that Israel had no clear plan on how to defeat Hamas. Quote, we never had a clear sense that the Israelis had a definable and achievable military objective, a source familiar with the meeting told the Post. Quote, from the very beginning, there's been a sense of us not knowing how the Israelis were going to do what they said they were going to do. End quote. Any comments?
And this is what I was going to say. I want to wait till you read that part. This is why I've been saying from day one, it's absurd for anyone to repeat the claim that Israel is at war with Hamas. Just look at what you just read there. They targeted high-rise apartments. They was aiming for large civilian casualties in order to kill one Hamas figure, that's what you call a cover story, my friends. Are we all children? Is everyone in the world children? Everyone in the world is sweet summer children. This is what you call ethnic cleansing. If you was, I have a question for you. I know we all not evil, but let's say you was committing genocide. What would you say to try to get away with a genocide? It's probably what Israel's fucking saying.
Tony, they came at me with a chainsaw jumping out of the tree. That's what happened, Tony.
He jumped out the tree, came out with a chainsaw. I got a right to defend myself.
Well, yesterday we were covering Netanyahu talking to Dana Bash, and she starts talking about them attacking people who were running to the food convoys. He goes, "Well, those are the unarmed members of Hamas." I'm not kidding. I'm like, well, they're we didn't get rid of all of Hamas. Those are the unarmed members of Hamas.
Yeah.
Yes.
The people running at the food trucks.
Yes, starving people who probably are only strong enough to take care of the loved ones that can't even move at all because they are dying of starvation. So, of course, they're going to run to a food truck, grab some food, and run back and hopefully feed their family members. But, oh, wait, they got shot.
Yeah, no, he was claiming that's Hamas.
Oh, that was
and now these are gangs.
And now these are gangs, right? Looters now trying to get flour. We covered this exact story. We actually covered it using the original WAPO piece because it's a very damning piece, and it's nothing that we didn't know already. But it's one thing to know, and it's another thing to have proof, and it's another thing to have a major paper of record like the Washington Post actually print this. That, they were at best 50-50 on their confidence that Israel had any confidence of its own that they were actually targeting legitimate military targets. I think 50-50 is placing it pretty high. From this piece here, it's quite obvious that they knew that they were making up bullshit stories to just cover. With not much foresight, because it just like it doesn't take a genius to know that Ukraine can't beat Russia in a war. It didn't take a genius to know that this was going to be a genocide that they would not be able to defend forever. And here they are. We're 8 months out. They're now trying to slow pedal this for the simple reason that they are getting creamed in the polls over it. But they can't because Netanyahu is not a popular figure in Israel, and the only way he can remain in power is to keep the war going and say, well, we're not having an election until after the war. So now they're totally fucked. And they could have seen this coming a mile away, but Joe Biden, as he says on camera, he's a Zionist. I mean, he is committed to giving them the benefit of every single doubt, and this is where it landed him.
Yeah, let me just read this last two parts, and I'll pass to you, Nick, so you can give your complete analysis. But U.S. intelligence has acknowledged since that Hamas isn't going away. The annual threat assessment that was released publicly by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence this month said, quote, Israel will probably face lingering armed resistance from Hamas for years to come. End quote. Despite the lack of realistic goal and massive civilian casualty, President Biden still continues to provide unconditional aid, military aid for the slaughter. Since October 7th, his administration has approved over 100 arms deal to Israel. Now, understand, he knew this in October 27th, and he provided 100 more secret arms deal. After that, that's the end of the article. Let's give last comments, and then we can get out of here. But go ahead. Any final comments on?
In the words of
broadly,
Nikki Haley, we must be getting the fuck out of here. Yes.
Yeah, just more broadly, how this election is going in a collapsing empire, or if you wanted to be more specific about how the Biden administration knew. But go ahead. Go ahead.
If I could just say in regards to this entire article and everything that we are witnessing, it's for many normal people who are going to be watching this, they're going to be scared and confused and frightened. And I think we have to awaken these people and bring them in slowly into something that we've been talking about and been warning about for for a very long time. And, you know, Hardlands Media, we were here before you guys, Do Dissidents, RBN, but 2017, it was that time we saw this. Maybe there was a chance for people to wake up, and it still wasn't enough. And if this isn't the moment in time where we could wake people up and realize it doesn't matter if it's Trump or Biden in the White House, we have to break away from this, or we are all sinking on this ship. So we have to start doing mutual aid, citizen ballot initiatives, and working together, because electoral politics is going to get us more of the same of Joe Biden or another Trump, and we can't afford it anymore. We just can't risk it anymore. That's all I want to add in.
Yeah. Now, to the point of this article, I feel like this is what a lot of people are forgetting. That we have a president who's a literal criminal terrorist. And I was about to stop you there by wanting you to finish the article, CJ, because you saw the part where the Biden administration made it clear that they knew that Israel was targeting civilian infrastructure. The fact that you have Biden publicly saying that Israel is bombing indiscriminately, that means the Biden administration knows that Israel is targeting and killing civilians. So any country, and this is a law in the United States, if you are a president and you send arms and munitions to countries that you know is committing human rights violations, that's violation of Leahy's law. And I keep mentioning this. Isn't it funny that us radical, crazy black commies at RBN, we know the law more than the institutionalists? 25 groups demand Biden urgently comply with U.S. law and end Israel arms sales. Look, read that headline again. They demand Biden urgently comply with U.S. law. We are at the point right now in our country where people are begging the president to stop being a criminal. Because what Biden is doing is highly illegal. Even if Israel was going after Hamas, having military targets is not a legitimate excuse for committing war crimes. It never has been and never will be. I guess it will be because Israel's redefining war. So last thought, so I won't go on another rant. People need to emphasize this part more. When people, and this is why they never invite me on to debate. When like Piers Morgan, I saw a lot of people tag me under Piers Morgan. Because Piers Morgan always invite these pro-Palestinian voices on to debate, but they don't invite me on. Like, you guys need to defend Biden breaking the fucking law. I thought you guys were for law and order. So you start here. If you're debating any of these liberals, any of these AIPAC scum who's defending what they're doing, do you believe in law and order or do you not? And if you don't, you're a terrorist, no different from Hamas. Because the idea is a terrorist is someone who don't have rules when they engage in combat. That's the idea. But that's what they are openly saying. We can kill as many people as long as it means we're targeting Hamas. There's no greater terrorist than the United States government. Any last thoughts, guys? And we can finish the last few super chats we have. Any last thoughts? Going once, going twice?
Well, that's I always, when you look at this, when people talk about the threat from China, the threat from Russia, I always quote Marcus Aurelius. You know a thing by what it does. Look at the body counts. How many deaths is China responsible for? How many deaths is Russia responsible for? Look at how many deaths we're responsible for. Millions upon millions upon millions. That tells you what our intentions actually are. Look at the outcomes. Don't look at the rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well said. If I can get some super chats, I can take this off now. You do the last few super chats and we wrap up. You guys already know we had to cook up. We was in the lab. We cook up another powerful 3-hour Post-Duopoly content. We was on hiatus for a while, so we was itching. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Let me get some of these super chats. Thanks for $20, Joanne Hansen. Thanks for all the hard work you do to inform and entertain us. Makes me laugh through the tears. The comedy and laughing is the only thing that keeps me from going completely fucking insane. Shit. The only the way. Thanks for $4.99, Janice. Dems using lawfare is common. In 2004, Dems filed 20 frivolous lawsuits in 18 states to bankrupt Nader's campaign and keep them tied up in court. Do you guys realize that the Biden administration and the establishment is using lawfare against the Uhuru Black Socialist Movement in Mali? They claim that they have ties to Russia, which is not. They are charging them with a crime that directly violates their First Amendment. But I learned this after talking with people in the Uhuru Black Socialist movement on Twitter. One of the reasons why they went after them is because obviously the Uhuru Black Socialist movement, they are a socialist movement and they believe in running candidates. So what they were doing is they was running candidates against Democrats. And I think CJ, I think you covered this. Maybe CJ Sabby. Yeah. Maybe I'm forgetting where I got my information from, because I think maybe you
covered it too. Sabby covered it more deeply.
I think I got it from you, CJ, because they was running elections, and obviously they wasn't getting a lot because it was socialists in Florida, but they were getting like 2 to 5%, just enough to cause Democrats. So then they started weaponizing law enforcement after them, and all of a sudden they getting arrested for quote unquote being agents of Russia. That's the real reason. That will really blow my mind. I learned that watching one of your guys' coverage. I think it was CJ. I think for 499, Janice, lawfare is very common with the Democrat Party. Very, very common. They have $5 ARJ. Biden knew about targeting, and he still helped facilitate over 100 armed sales. Fuck Jim Crow Joe, Genocide Joe. Jim Crow, Genocide Joe. Well said. If you vote for Joe Biden, you vote for a fucking terrorist. That's why I don't even accept their talking point, bro. Like, I am completely unemployable. If RBN doesn't work, I'm fucked. Because I have been telling you guys, I refuse to defend the mosque. I don't even accept the premise that they're terrorists. Like, nigga, Israel and the United States are terrorists. They define the rules of war. These people in Gaza, they know nothing except the rules of the war that was established by a bunch of terrorists that they're fighting. So of course they may engage in the same rules of war that they already was subjected to. I don't accept the premise that Hamas is a terrorist. That's why I'm unemployable. I hope this RBN shit work out in the long run. Because I don't accept that fucking premise. Because if you're targeting civilians, if you are breaking Leahy's law, if you're doing what they're doing, I'm of course gonna root for an organization that trying to take you out. Anyway, I'll move on. I'm gonna cut the
2 words for you, Nick. Stage name. Stage name.
Yeah, there you go.
See, you gotta see Zoya's love, Zoya's life. She never show her face. She's smart, bro. Zoya been through some shit. That's why she never show her face. She's been through retaliation before. She's smart. I should fucking stay unanimous, man. I'm fucking like this. RBN doesn't work. I'm fucked.
Well, wait. You could maybe set up like a fake VTuber avatar, and there we go. That way, and change your voice through editing, and then boom, there you go, man. You got it,
bro. You know how fast? If I was still selling cars for Toyota, do you know how fast one of these Zionist motherfuckers would hit my management up and say, "You see what Nick Cruz say about October 7th? He accuses Israel of killing their own civilians." Bro, I'm never having a job ever again. I better hope this shit works out. Anyway,
hey, let me just say a shout out to our Rumble crowd. We have 300 people watching us on Rumble. We have about 1,200 people on Twitter, and we have about 810 people on YouTube. So shout out to everybody watching, and then a smaller amounts on Facebook. So just shouting out all the platforms. Thank you for watching. But continue. Go ahead, Nick, with the rest of the super chat, sir.
A cap on price increases was utilized in the past. I don't know when you sent the super chats. I don't know.
That was Nixon. Nixon did price caps, didn't he?
Oh, okay, nice. Thank you, Russell, and thank you for the super chat, Janice. Actually, not sure how many we got. Dang, you guys really turned up at the end of the show. I appreciate it, my friends. Thank you. I think the California currency, not California currency. I'm an idiot. Canada. That's what I meant to say. Canada, guys. Don't fucking judge me. Thank for the 69. FOMC meeting today announced no Fed rate cuts, but said there might be 3 this year. I call BS. They're just trying to make Biden look cool. Maybe they'll do 1 cut, but then raise it again after election. Rent will double by the
waiting for after the election. Yeah, they're waiting for actual election.
Okay, you know the funny thing is, Democratic administrations are usually worse in the second term.
Oh, that's right. I forgot how shit Obama
was.
The
crime bill. Yeah, all those. Yep, that is true.
Do you guys understand how unfucking hinged the Biden administration will become if they get reelected, bro? We're fucked anyway. I don't want to ever lead to the conclusion that we're not fucked anyway. But the Biden administration wins again, we're gonna see some legendary evil shit, bro. Because that's when I turned against Obama, bro. Because I was delusional. I told the story all the time. I was delusional, thinking like, oh man, Obama is being hung up because of Republican obstruction.
Oh yeah,
like,
oh yeah,
that's the excuse I used to
I
tell
was
myself.
there.
Remember?
I was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, Russell,
Sweet summer child.
The Republicans are blocking Obama. Then Obama's second term, guys, that what did it. Because Obama's second term was so fucking crazy. That's when you realize, oh shit, these motherfuckers gonna vote for me no matter what. Anyway, all right, sorry guys, I said no more rants. But anyway,
it's what Carlin said. Don't vote. You'll only encourage them.
Yeah. So the point of the rant I'm cutting off is if Biden wins again, he's gonna be emboldened. He's gonna be fucking even worse than the first term. We can't even imagine what that would be. Anyway, a few more super chats. I really need to shut the fuck up. They were $5 DC. Did you know 100 years ago a riot broke out in a 1924 Democratic National Convention in New York City over a failed resolution to condemn the Klan? Interesting.
Oh.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I believe, if I'm not wrong, that was the year they nominated. I think that's why that came up. That was the year they nominated Al Smith. Most people think Kennedy was the first Catholic nominated by a major party. It was actually Al Smith, who was a New York Tammany Hall politician. And
really?
Yeah, they used to burn crosses when he would go on campaign stops through the South.
Oh, that's special. Nothing says like, hey, welcome to the South. There's a burning cross. Oh my God.
Yeah, they weren't ready for a Catholic presidential candidate at the time.
Thanks for $10, ARJ. Did you see that ad that popped up on the first receipt video on the last segment about the facts about the merger of the two biggest grocery chains? Oh, nothing bad gonna happen with that, I'm sure. Capitalism at its finest, promoting monopolies. Don't worry, guys. They got a plan. Don't worry. They'll make sure our society run in a very smooth fashion. Surely they're not going to put the profit motive over what's best for society. Anyone who claims that is just a crazy fucking commie. Of course, they have the public good at heart.
Yeah, no, having only two major manufacturers of commercial aircraft has worked out very well for us.
Yeah, well, hey, Russell, you know what? Maybe you're that protection symbol. Like me, every time you get on an airplane, the airplane's going to be fine because they got soap and credit cards to now make sure that everything's sealed up.
So we got two more super chats unless some new ones came in. They for $2, Talexu Gola, $2 paid to address the RBN baseball cap issue. Thanks for the $2.
Oh, we gotta get a hat. We gotta get hats. I think he's saying we need to get hats.
Oh yeah, okay, I get it now.
In our merch store. Yeah, we need to get hats in our merch store.
Bro, I will get the Mal was never wrong hat in a second, my friends. Thanks for $4.99, Janice. Assange didn't want Clinton as president because she wanted to do an extrajudicial assassination on him when she was a Secretary of State. TYT grifters are clowns. Well said. And by the way, there's no evidence that he preferred Trump. There's no evidence that he did selective linking. How will you even know that? How the fuck you know what he has? There's no evidence of that. That's the only thing that Clinton supporting coping liberals said. Oh, he got dirt on the DNC. Why can't you find anything on the RNC? That's pure Democrat liberal fucking code, my friends. And maybe, just maybe, if you guys didn't fucking arrest him, he would have exposed Trump when he was president. Just maybe.
Well, but the idea that like the idea that he didn't expose Trump. He's not a hacker. He is not a whistleblower. He did not pursue scoops. He's a publisher. So when someone had something, they gave it to WikiLeaks and WikiLeaks published it. He didn't go get it. They gave it to him. That's the whole point of the organization. So, why didn't he expose Trump? Well, maybe no one gave him anything. Or maybe they gave him something that didn't check out, because don't forget, WikiLeaks had a perfect record in terms of authenticity.
Zero. Yeah, exactly.
TYT wanted them to post fake bullshit like they did. They wanted them to spread Russiagate bullshit. And once again, like, Trump wasn't fucking in office. If you guys didn't support Julian Assange being locked up, God knows what he could have exposed with Trump.
You're right.
He never had a chance to do that because you morons locked him up.
You're right. If he had been out, I would say it's very likely there would have been things leaked to him under Donald Trump that he would have published.
Now that you say it, definitely, bro. Can you imagine all the fucking liberals that would definitely? Now that
they would have been leaking to him every day.
Actually, here's the thing. Not only that, it would have been stuff that would have stuck. Like all the stuff that the Democrats think they got Trump, like he's able to find legal loopholes. Like with anything like Julian Assange would have probably done. I mean, he would have probably been the death blow to Trump.
Yep. I see 3 more new super chats, but I'm going to cut it off at the 3. Just so you guys know, not trying to cut anyone, not trying to skip any super chats. Let you guys know I'm cutting off at the next 3. Thanks for $5, Paul. I'm Irish. We fight, not talk, just the way. Laugh out loud. Thank you for $5, Paul. Thank you for $4.99, Black. Also, man, I think on Nick and Night tomorrow I'm gonna cover this where you had the Irish Prime Minister that had Biden. I don't know. Have any of you guys?
Yeah, but he resigned. He resigned.
Yeah.
I actually talked about
Yeah, he
that
resigned today.
on yesterday's show. I talked about how the Irish Prime Minister said the word genocide and how Joe Biden was saying like we got to do a ceasefire, but Biden's never going to do it. But he resigned today, and I did talk about that. Clip is up, and for some reason YouTube isn't boosting it up for some reason. Why is that YouTube? Why is that YouTube?
Bro, YouTube is fucking dead, bro. Like, I don't know if these X numbers are fucking real. I think they're fucking bullshit. I don't know if they're real, but motherfucking YouTube is dying, bro. But anyway, I think this is funny because I'm glad you played that clip. I was thinking about playing it. I didn't have time with Q yesterday with the Irish Prime Minister essentially lecturing Biden to his face.
It was funny.
It
was funny, but people from Ireland are saying, well, he's not who he says he is, and that's why he's resigning.
Oh,
because people are tired of his shite.
That makes that clip way less cool.
Yeah.
Now that guy's a sellout.
Yeah, because so that I have to do an update to that video because people are saying like, well, hey, he's not who he says he is.
God damn, I'm glad I didn't do the segment now. That sucks. That's the story way less cool if you know that guy's a sellout. But the idea that Biden always prop up his Irish roots when he's against the will of the Irish people who stand with Palestine, it's just a glorious hypocrisy. Anyway, 2 more super chats. Thank you for $4.99, Black Lyron. Anyone here going to vote independent? RFK can do a pull up.
I'm voting third party, but I'm not voting for RFK Jr.
I would never vote for that genocidal maniac ever. Thank you for the $2. I wish PSO was on the ballot, but I'm probably gonna. If I do vote, actually, I am gonna vote because we had some good ballot initiatives. That's the only way I'll vote. Like if there's a ballot initiative, I'll vote for the ballot initiative. And then if there's a Green Party or third party candidate, I'll just vote for them while they're there. The only reason I voted last election was because recreational marijuana was on the ballot, so I voted the Green Party candidate because I was like, yeah, I might as well because I'm here. But I think Missouri has some bangers coming up. I sent out a tweet. I got to recheck it because my memory is faulty right now. But they got some bangers. So I may just vote Joe Stein just so I vote for a third party. I would love to vote for PSL as well, but they're never on the ballot in Missouri. And even if I like Cornel West, too bad he wouldn't be on the ballot for me to vote for him anyway, even if I did like them. So there's that. Anyway, last super chat.
Looks like I'm voting for Dave Chappelle again.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll be the third time.
Thanks for $2.
Pants confirmed. Yes, I'm the.
Yes, he did.
Oh, so that's what you was doing. That what you was doing.
Yes, exactly it. Because let's face it, I ain't no Jeffrey Toobin in the morning. I dress up for these people. What do you mean, those people? I dress up for these people. That's right. You want to watch?
My man, kid is out here.
It was Trey, guys. It was Trey the whole time.
So
my Heartless media audience knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap the show. CJ to take off. Thank you guys for joining us. Actually, I'm gonna give you guys a chance to shout out any projects you guys are working on. Starting with Kit, what are you working on? Anything coming up?
All right. Well, obviously, I've been speaking with my colleague Daniel, and we're going to be speaking about how to cover the DNC convention between August 19th to the 22nd. Obviously, you guys are going to be meeting Daniel for the first time. Be coordinating with FaZe a little bit. My friend Nick Thompson will probably be joining us for covering the DNC convention. Obviously, Can TV. I'm very happy how our public access show has been growing. YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, and Kick. We're trying to get more guests onto the show, and I'm really happy that we have a loyal audience supporting us in the morning, 9 a.m. Central's when you could watch us, and we're just grateful for Due Dissidents and RBN for being solid allies for us. And when I meet you guys, let's go ahead, have a drink, let's have some good food, because obviously saying thank you will never be enough. Keaton, I miss you, but all the best to you, bro. And
I mean, we would have good food, but we're going to be in Chicago.
Oh, that is
shit.
That's violence.
That's a low blow.
That is a low blow. You know what? This is my last time on this show. Forget you, man.
Oh man, that's brutal.
I'm totally kidding. I lived there for a while. Chicago is not a bad food town, actually.
How dare you, Russell? How dare you?
And finally, Miguel, it's Trey.
Dude, DNC convention in August. I'm definitely going. I'm definitely making my way there somehow. It's just gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun.
You better
Yeah,
show up.
wild.
I said before, I love when the good guys win, bro. Like all these fucking social democrat Weasley motherfuckers made completely irrelevant compared to due distance. It feels good when the good guys win, ladies and gentlemen. So what's popular at due distance? What you guys coming up?
We're on 4 days a week now.
I said it when we first started working together, man. This crew, our affiliates, this is the third wave. This is the third wave. That first wave of independent media was very PMC, man. It was very suburban. Those are your Cenks, your Annas, your Majority Report. So they're all a bunch of fucking rich kids. And that's why, in the end, they're Democrats. In the end, they were never really going to burn bridges with the establishment. And in the end, it's the reason they were the first wave, because coming from where we come from, it takes you a while to be like, why do these guys get to talk and I don't? And then finally you go, well, why don't I? Well, why don't I?
Exactly.
But when you don't come from that kind of privilege, you don't see yourself that way. It took us a while to start to speak. They just jumped right out there because everybody's been letting them talk without ever telling them to shut the fuck up since they came out of the womb, right? They just assumed it was their place to speak for working people, and it's not. It's our place.
Absolutely. I love this post-duopoly like mini network that we created. I think we were a little bit too ambitious the first time when we scheduled the show, but we definitely need to do this at least once a month.
Yeah, I think once a month makes sense. Yeah.
Something like once a month. I mean, because obviously we all got busy schedules and work, and I know I got to start prepping up for this convention and just at least hopefully trying to get inside. I know I have my Chicago press pass to get inside, but we'll talk more about that later. I think Russ, you'll be good to go too. So we'll see. We'll see what we can pull off.
Key, any last thoughts? Anything else you want to add?
Nope. We're on 4 days a week. We're on 9 a.m. tomorrow.
All right, cool. I have my good friend. Have my good friend Assault Rod join me at Nick and Night. So you guys thought that was a banger yesterday. You already know I'm bringing Assault Rod. We have a lot of things to discuss on, guys. I can't even begin to like, for example, that article we probably gonna talk about that. Assault has another great article that she wrote about sanctions and how sanctions are just another offensive tool of war. Probably discuss that as well. You guys know Nick and Night, banger after banger after banger. We'll be back tomorrow night with another stream like that. So I'll see you guys.
You're on Thursday nights? I thought you were on Tuesday nights.
Tuesday and Thursday.
You're on. All right.
Yeah, Tuesday and Thursdays. I had the hard job of going up against Savvy and Due Distance at the same time on Tuesday. Made me sweat.
Well, we switched our Tuesday. We switched our Tuesday to 2 p.m. Yeah.
Whew, I was sweating. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. You guys can check me out tomorrow. I'll have a new hotspot video released sometime tomorrow afternoon as well. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out Due Distance and Kit from Heartlands Media as well. Have a great night, my friends.